The rain fell in sheets across the mountain road, headlights barely penetrating the darkness ahead. Inside the car, Claire Parker gripped a leather document bag tightly against her chest, her knuckles white with tension. Lightning flashed momentarily, illuminating her worried face as she turned to her husband. "We have to get these files home safely, Daniel," she said, her voice steady despite her fear. "They're watching us." Daniel Parker kept his eyes fixed on the treacherous road windshield wipers, fighting a losing battle against the deluge. His jaw was set with determination as he navigated the hairpin turns with practiced precision. "We're almost through the pass," he assured her. "Another 20 minutes and we'll be back in Cedar Grove." The headlights cut through the darkness, illuminating the rain-slicked asphalt that snaked down the mountainside. Claire checked the rear-view mirror for the 10th time, searching for pursuing headlights. "Do you think Victor knows what we found?" she asked. Daniel's grip tightened on the steering wheel. "If he did, we wouldn't have made it out of the research site." Lightning struck again closer, this time followed instantly by a deafening crack of thunder. In that brilliant flash of illumination, a dark figure appeared in the middle of the road. A young black horse with a distinctive white lightning-shaped marking on its chest, frozen in terror. "Daniel!" Claire screamed. Daniel swerved hard, tires losing traction on the wet pavement. The car skidded sideways, breaking through the guardrail with a sickening crunch of metal. For one suspended moment, the Parkers' car hung at the edge of the cliff, and Claire's eyes locked with those of the young horse still standing in the road. Then gravity took hold. The car plummeted into the ravine below headlights, carving twin arcs through the rain before smashing into darkness. On the road above, the young black horse approached the broken guardrail. It peered down into the abyss, ears flicking forward, then back before turning and disappearing into the storm-swept forest. Lily Parker jerked awake with a gasp, her heart hammering against her ribs. The familiar nightmare had returned, but something was different this time. She remembered the horse, a young black colt with a white lightning mark on its chest. In 5 years of recurring nightmares about her parents' accident, this was the first time she had seen the animal so clearly. Moonlight spilled through her bedroom window, casting long shadows across the faded quilt her mother had made. Lily's drawings of wild horses covered nearly every inch of wall space. Dozens of sketches of the same magnificent black stallion with its distinctive white marking. She slipped out of bed and padded to the window, looking out across the moonlit pastures of the Parker Ranch. In the distance, the silhouette of mountains rose against the star-filled sky. Somewhere out there, she knew the horse from her dreams still ran free. Lily hadn't spoken more than a few necessary words since the night her parents died. The doctors called it selective mutism brought on by trauma. Her grandmother called it grief too deep for words. Whatever the name silence had become, Lily's refuge and her prison. A soft knock at the door preceded her grandmother's entrance. Eleanor Parker's face was lined with concern as she sat on the edge of Lily's bed. "The nightmare again?" she asked softly. Lily nodded, returning to sit beside her grandmother. "I saw the horse this time," she whispered, her voice rusty from disuse. "The one from my drawings." Eleanor's eyes widened slightly at the rare sound of her granddaughter's voice. She gently stroked Lily's auburn hair, so like her mother's. "Your mother always said you had a special connection with animals," she said, "even before you were born." Lily leaned against her grandmother's shoulder, drawing comfort from her solid presence. Outside, an owl called into the night, its lonely voice echoing across the valley that had been home to the Parker family for generations. Morning light painted Cedar Grove Valley in shades of gold and amber. Fall had come early to the Colorado mountains, turning aspen leaves into coins of yellow light. From the scenic overlook at the entrance to town, the transformation of Cedar Grove was clearly visible. Half the town maintained its rustic charm, while the other half sported freshly painted storefronts and trendy boutiques. A massive billboard dominated the entrance. "Harrington Resorts, the future of Cedar Grove," featuring an artist's rendering of luxury lodges and golf courses where family ranches currently stood. Beside it, the weathered "Welcome to Cedar Grove" sign seemed small and forgotten, its paint peeling around the edges. Inside the Crossroads Cafe, Jack Miller wiped down the counter with practiced efficiency. At 75, the former cowboy moved with the deliberate grace of a man who had spent his life in the saddle. The cafe walls were covered with black and white photographs chronicling the valley's history. Cowboys on cattle drives, early settlers, and magnificent wild horses running free across the range. "Morning, Sheriff," Jack called as the door jingled open. "Coffee's fresh." Sheriff Tom Bryant nodded, settling onto his usual stool. "Going to need it today. Town council meeting about the resort expansion." Jack poured the steaming coffee with a grimace. 150 years this town's been standing, but I swear, Tom, I've never seen it so divided. The sheriff took a grateful sip. Victor's promising jobs and progress. Hard for folks to turn that down when half the ranches are barely staying afloat. Jack's weathered face hardened. "Progress, my foot. It's a land grab, pure and simple. Always has been with Victor Harrington." The door chimed again as two women in designer hiking gear entered, consulting their phones. "Excuse me," one called to Jack. "Is this the authentic Western experience we read about online? The brochure mentioned cowboy storytelling." Jack exchanged a look with the sheriff before plastering on a smile. "That'd be me, ma'am. Stories start at noon with lunch." As the tourists found a table, Jack leaned closer to the sheriff. "See what I mean? They want the authentic Western experience while they help destroy what's left of it." Through the cafe window, they watched as a black SUV with the Harrington Resorts logo cruised slowly down Main Street, its tinted windows reflecting the changing face of Cedar Grove. At the Parker Ranch, Eleanor stood at the mailbox, her face grim as she read the foreclosure notice. The bank's language was polite but firm. 3 months behind on payments, final warning before legal proceedings. She folded the letter carefully, tucking it into her pocket before Lily could see it. The ranch had been struggling since Claire and Daniel's deaths. The life insurance had helped initially, but medical bills and declining cattle prices had gradually eroded their savings. Now, with winter approaching, Eleanor faced impossible choices. Across the yard, Lily emerged from the barn carrying a small fox kit wrapped in a towel. She had found the orphaned animal near the creek 2 days ago and had been nursing it back to health. It was the third injured creature she had brought home that month alone. Eleanor watched her granddaughter with a mixture of pride and worry. Lily's gentle way with animals was remarkable, a gift inherited from her mother. But that same sensitivity made her vulnerable in a world that often mistook kindness for weakness. "That fox doing any better?" Eleanor called. Lily nodded carefully, adjusting the towel to show her grandmother the kit's bright eyes and improved alertness. "Dr. Winters is coming by later to check on him," she said softly, using one of her rare spoken sentences. Eleanor's heart lifted at the sound of Lily's voice, as it always did. Each word felt like a small victory against the grief that had stolen her granddaughter's speech. "Well, we'd better tidy up then," she said cheerfully, tucking the foreclosure notice deeper into her pocket. "Can't have the good doctor thinking we run a messy operation here." As they walked back to the house together, Eleanor's gaze drifted to the mountains, where the wild horse herds roamed. Claire had spent years documenting their migration patterns and behavior before her death. Now those same mountains cast long shadows over the valley and over the future of the Parker Ranch. Victor Harrington stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of his office, surveying Cedar Grove from the hilltop headquarters of Harrington Enterprises. At 60, he cut an imposing figure, tall and broad-shouldered, with silver hair swept back from a tanned face. Success had shaped him like a river-shaped stone, smoothing some edges while carving deeper channels in others. Behind him, his son Nate reviewed documents at the conference table. At 30, Nate was the spitting image of his father in his younger days, though his eyes held a softness that Victor's had long since lost. "The environmental impact reports are ready for submission," Nate said, looking up from his laptop. "Though I'm still concerned about the watershed assessment. If we're found responsible for any contamination—" "We've been through this," Victor interrupted, not turning from the view. "The reports show acceptable levels across all testing sites." "Akanas." "The reports show what you paid for them to show," Nate said quietly. Victor turned, then fixing his son with a sharp gaze. "Careful, Nathan. Don't mistake my patience for weakness." Nate held his father's stare for a moment before looking down. "Sorry, sir. I'm just concerned about potential liability." Victor's expression softened slightly. "Your concern is noted. But remember, everything I've built, everything I'm still building, is for our family's legacy. for what should have been Thomas's inheritance too. At the mention of his older brother Nate's shoulders tensed. Thomas Harrington's portrait hung prominently on the office wall, forever frozen at 22, his bright future cut short 15 years ago. Victor crossed to his desk, picking up a framed photograph of himself with Daniel and Claire Parker in their college days. Three smiling faces against a backdrop of mountain wilderness arms, thrown around each other's shoulders in easy camaraderie. The press conference starts in an hour, Nate reminded him. Victor set the photograph down, his momentary nostalgia replaced by cool determination. Then let's not keep progress waiting. The Cedar Grove Elementary School playground echoed with children's laughter and shouts, all except for one corner where Lily Parker sat alone sketching in her notebook. Her auburn hair fell forward like a curtain, shielding her from curious glances and whispered comments. "Hey, weirdo," called Tommy Jenkins, approaching with two friends. "Still drawing your imaginary horses?" Lily hunched further over her sketchbook, pressing the pencil harder against the paper. "I heard she doesn't talk because she's actually crazy," one of the other boys stage whispered. "My mom says it runs in families." Tommy reached for Lily's sketchbook. "Let's see what Crazy Parker's drawing today." A firm hand landed on Tommy's shoulder. "That's enough, boys," Miss Thompson said, her voice leaving no room for argument. "I believe you have better places to be." The boys scattered Tommy, throwing a resentful look over his shoulder. Miss Thompson sat beside Lily on the bench. "May I?" she asked, gesturing to the sketchbook. After a moment's hesitation, Lily tilted the book toward her teacher. The page showed a magnificent black stallion with a white lightning mark on its chest, rendered with remarkable detail. "This is beautiful, Lily," Miss Thompson said with genuine admiration. "You've captured such spirit in his eyes." Lily's fingers traced the lightning mark on the horse's chest. She glanced up at her teacher, then back at the drawing. "Phantom," she whispered. Miss Thompson's eyes widened slightly at hearing Lily speak. "Is that his name, Phantom?" Lily nodded, her eyes never leaving the drawing. "Well, he's magnificent," Miss Thompson said. "I'd love to see him someday." A small smile touched Lily's lips. "He's real," she whispered. "He lives in the mountains. Mom showed me once." The playground bell rang, signaling the end of recess. As the other children lined up, Thompson watched Lily carefully close her sketchbook, her fingers lingering on the cover as though protecting something precious inside. Dr. Michael Winters checked the splint on the fox kit's injured leg, nodding with satisfaction at its progress. At 60, the veterinarian moved with the careful precision of someone who had spent decades handling animals both wild and domestic. His silver beard and kind eyes gave him the appearance of a frontier doctor from another century. "You've done a fine job with this little fellow, Lily," he said, gently returning the kit to its makeshift nest in the Parker barn. "Another week of your care, and he'll be ready to return to the wild." Lily smiled, a rare, full smile that transformed her solemn face. Animals always brought out the best in her, just as they had in Claire. Eleanor entered the barn carrying a tray with coffee and cookies. "Thought you both might need refreshments after playing doctor." Dr. Winters accepted the coffee gratefully. "Your granddaughter has her mother's touch, Eleanor. This fox would have died without her intervention." A shadow crossed Eleanor's face at the mention of her daughter. "Claire always did bring home strays. Drove her father crazy when she was growing up." Lily slipped away to check on the horses, leaving the adults to talk. She could sense that her grandmother wanted to speak privately with Dr. Winters. Once Lily was out of earshot, Eleanor's cheerful facade faded. "We got another notice from the bank today, Michael. Final warning before foreclosure." Dr. Winters set down his coffee cup. "How much time do you have?" 30 days, Eleanor said, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. "Unless I can come up with 3 months back payments plus penalties." "What about selling some of the cattle?" Eleanor shook her head. "Already sold what we could spare. The rest barely gets us through winter." Dr. Winters considered this, stroking his beard thoughtfully. "I might be able to help with a loan." "No," Eleanor interrupted firmly. "You've done enough already, Michael. I won't take your money too." They stood in silence for a moment, the only sounds coming from the horses in their stalls, and Lily's soft murmuring as she checked each one. "What about Victor?" Dr. Winters finally asked. He's been trying to buy this land for years. Eleanor's expression hardened. I'll live in my car before I sell to Victor Harrington. Dr. Winters nodded, understanding the depth of her refusal. Claire would be proud of how you've kept this place going, Eleanor, and how you've raised Lily. Eleanor's eyes drifted to her granddaughter, now brushing a gentle hand along an old mare's flank. I just wish Claire and Daniel could see her. She's so like them both. Claire's sensitivity and Daniel's quiet strength. They see her, Dr. Winters said softly. I firmly believe that. Eleanor smiled, blinking back tears. Listen to us getting all philosophical when there's work to be done. She straightened her shoulders. I've got pies to bake for the church fundraiser. Maybe I can charm the bank manager with apple crumble. As Eleanor headed back to the house, Dr. Winters watched Lily with the horses. The girl had a gift just as Claire had. He only hoped that gift wouldn't lead her into the same dangerous waters that had claimed her parents. The press conference was well attended, with local media and residents crowding the town hall steps. Victor Harrington stood at the podium, projecting confidence and vision as he unveiled the expanded plans for Harrington Resorts. Phase 2 will bring an additional 300 jobs to Cedar Grove, he announced, gesturing to the architectural renderings displayed on easels beside him, plus an estimated $2 million in annual tax revenue. This isn't just about luxury accommodations. It's about securing Cedar Grove's future in an evolving economy. Cameras flashed as Victor pointed out features of the development: golf courses, spa facilities, and high-end shopping that would transform the sleepy ranching town into a destination resort. From the back of the crowd, Samuel Redwood watched with undisguised contempt. At 65, the owner of Redwood Ranch was one of the few local landowners who could match Victor's influence. His family had ranched in the valley for 5 generations, and he had no intention of seeing that legacy paved over for putting greens. As the presentation concluded and Victor opened the floor for questions, Redwood raised his hand. Victor's smile tightened almost imperceptibly as he acknowledged his old rival. Mr. Harrington, Redwood called, his deep voice carrying across the crowd. Your environmental impact statement makes no mention of the wild horse herds that migrate through the proposed development areas. What provisions have been made to protect these federally protected animals? A murmur ran through the crowd. The wild horses of Cedar Grove were a point of local pride and a tourist draw in their own right. Victor's smile never wavered. An excellent question, Sam. As you know, we've worked closely with wildlife management experts to ensure all native species are protected. The wild horse migration corridors will be preserved as green space within the development. Cochorno. Green space, Redwood repeated incredulously. You mean the golf courses? I mean designated natural areas, Victor replied smoothly. In fact, we believe the development will actually benefit the horse populations by preventing illegal hunting and providing protected grazing areas. Before Redwood could respond, Victor called on another questioner, effectively cutting off the debate. As the press conference continued, Nate Harrington studied Samuel Redwood from his position behind his father. The rancher's opposition was expected, but there was something in his expression that suggested he knew more than he was letting on. Nate made a mental note to look deeper into Redwood's recent activities. After the final question, Victor concluded with a practiced message of unity. Change can be challenging, but I believe Cedar Grove's best days are ahead of us. Together, we're building a community our children and grandchildren will be proud to call home. The crowd applauded politely, though Nate noticed the townspeople were clearly divided. Enthusiasm from business owners who stood to profit, concern from ranchers and longtime residents who feared being priced out of their own community. As people dispersed, Victor joined Nate at the edge of the square. Redwood's going to be a problem, Nate observed quietly. Victor adjusted his designer tie, seemingly unconcerned. Sam's all bark, always has been. He mentioned the wild horses deliberately, Nate persisted. He knows that's a sensitive issue after what happened with Thomas. A flash of something dark crossed Victor's face. Sam Redwood would be wise to remember who holds the notes on half the ranches in this valley. He checked his watch. I need to get to the auction grounds. The Mustang trapper called. They finally caught him. Nate's eyes widened slightly. Phantom, they actually caught him. Victor's smile returned, cold and satisfied. 5 years of trying. Cost me a fortune in trappers and tracking equipment, but yes, the ghost horse of Cedar Grove is finally mine. Lily sat cross-legged on a rocky outcrop overlooking the valley, her sketchbook open beside her. Through binoculars, she scanned the distant meadows where the wild horse herds sometimes grazed in late afternoon. The golden light of autumn burnished the landscape, turning ordinary scenes into paintings. This was her secret place, a hidden vantage point her mother had shown her years ago. Claire had brought her here to watch the wild horses, teaching her how to recognize individuals by their markings and behavior. It was here that Lily had first seen Phantom, then a young stallion already showing signs of the magnificent leader he would become. Movement in the valley below caught her attention. A group of men with trucks and horse trailers were setting up some kind of corral system in a meadow frequented by the wild herds. Lily focused her binoculars, her heart rate quickening as she recognized the Harrington Resorts logo on the vehicles. She watched in growing distress as the men unloaded equipment, ropes, cattle prods, and what looked like tranquilizer guns. They were setting a trap for the wild horses. Lily scrambled to her feet, shoving the binoculars into her backpack. She had to warn Dr. Winters. He would know what to do. As she hurried down the trail toward home, the sun sank lower behind the mountains, casting long shadows across the valley. In the growing darkness, she didn't notice the black SUV parked on the forest road below, or the man with binoculars watching her hasty descent. The auction grounds at the edge of Cedar Grove buzzed with unusual excitement. Word had spread quickly. Victor Harrington had captured Phantom, the legendary black stallion that had eluded wranglers for years. A temporary corral had been constructed in the center of the auction ring, reinforced with extra bars and surrounded by nervous handlers. Inside, a magnificent black stallion paced restlessly, his coat gleaming like polished onyx in the afternoon sun. The white lightning mark on his chest seemed to glow against his dark hide. Victor stood nearby, speaking with reporters from the local paper and a regional TV station that had sent a crew when they heard about the capture. This animal has been a menace to ranchers for years, Victor explained, gesturing toward the stallion. He's led other horses away from designated management areas, damaged property, and endangered people with his aggressive behavior. Katpuri. Some locals consider him a symbol of the wild spirit of Cedar Grove, a reporter countered. There's already talk of protests against his capture. Victor's smile was thin. Sentimentality doesn't change the fact that unmanaged horse populations damage the ecosystem and endanger themselves. We're simply bringing balance back to the valley. Inside the corral, Phantom charged suddenly at the bars, causing handlers to jump back. The stallion's eyes rolled white with fear, disguised as aggression, his powerful body tense with the instinct for freedom. Victor watched the display with cold satisfaction. You see, dangerous and unpredictable. This is why proper management is necessary. Nate approached concern evident in his expression. Dad, the vet, says he's showing signs of extreme stress. If we don't release him soon, he could injure himself. He'll calm down once he accepts his situation, Victor replied dismissively. Animals adapt. Nate's frown deepened. That's not what the experts say about wild Mustangs, especially one that's lived free as long as this one. Victor turned to face his son fully. Are you questioning my judgment, Nathan? Before Nate could respond, a commotion at the entrance to the auction grounds drew their attention. Dr. Winters was arguing with security, trying to gain access to the corral area. Let him through, Victor called, his expression shifting to one of polite welcome. Michael Winters, Cedar Grove's very own horse whisperer, come to inspect our prize. Dr. Winters strode forward, barely concealing his anger. This capture is potentially illegal, Victor. The Bureau of Land Management requires permits for removing wild horses from protected lands. Victor's smile never wavered. All properly filed, I assure you. Feel free to check with the county office. Dr. Winters moved closer to the corral, his experienced eyes assessing Phantom's condition. The stallion recognized him, ears pricking forward momentarily before flattening again in fear. He's severely stressed, Dr. Winters said. He needs to be released back to his herd. That won't be happening, Victor replied coolly. This animal has evaded proper management for too long. He'll be auctioned tomorrow along with the rest of the stock. Dr. Winters stepped closer, lowering his voice. Claire would be appalled by this, Victor. You know how much she fought to protect these herds. Something flickered in Victor's eyes. A brief flash of emotion quickly suppressed. Claire isn't here, he said flatly, and her romantic notions about wildlife conservation died with her. The two men stared at each other, decades of history and unspoken accusations hanging in the air between them. In fact, Victor continued, a new idea visibly forming. I've decided to make tomorrow's auction more interesting. He turned to address the gathered crowd and press. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm announcing a special challenge. Anyone who can tame this wild Mustang in 5 minutes will win the horse free of charge. The crowd murmured in surprise and interest. However, Victor added with a cold smile, if you fail, you'll pay $5,000 for wasting my time and endangering my property. Dr. Winters shook his head in disgust. You're turning this into a spectacle. I'm turning it into a lesson, Victor corrected. Sometimes the wild things of this world need to be tamed or removed. As if understanding the threat, Phantom reared up in the corral, striking the bars with his hooves. The powerful sound echoed across the auction grounds like a declaration of war. Eleanor was waiting for Dr. Winters when he returned to the Parker Ranch. The veterinarian's face told her everything she needed to know even before he spoke. It's true then, she asked. Victor has Phantom. Dr. Winters nodded grimly, accepting the cup of coffee she offered. He's planning to auction him tomorrow, turned it into some kind of twisted challenge. Anyone who can tame him in 5 minutes gets him free. Failure costs $5,000. Eleanor sank into a kitchen chair. He knows nobody can gentle a wild Mustang in 5 minutes. It's just cruel theater. It's more than that, Dr. Winters said, his voice low. He mentioned Claire, said her romantic notions about conservation died with her. Eleanor's hands tightened around her coffee cup. He's still bitter after all these years. Where's Lily? Dr. Winters asked, glancing around the kitchen. In her room. She came home upset earlier. Wouldn't tell me why. Eleanor's brow furrowed with worry. She hasn't spoken a word since she got back from her ride. Dr. Winters hesitated, then reached for his bag. Eleanor, there's something you should see. He withdrew a worn leather journal. Claire gave this to me for safekeeping before the accident. I've been waiting for the right time to share it. Eleanor accepted the journal with trembling hands, recognizing her daughter's handwriting on the cover. Migration Patterns and Behavior, Cedar Grove Wild Horse Study. She documented everything, Dr. Winters explained. Herd movements, behavior patterns, and something else. Evidence of mineral deposits under the North Valley. Valuable deposits on protected land. Eleanor looked up sharply. Land that Victor now wants for his resort, Dr. Winters nodded. Claire believed Victor was planning unauthorized exploration in protected areas. She was gathering evidence to present to federal authorities. And then she died in a car accident. Eleanor said, her voice hollow. A very convenient accident, Dr. Winters added quietly. Eleanor stared at the journal, her mind racing. Does Lily know about this? No. I've kept Claire's research secure all these years, but with Victor moving forward on the resort and now capturing Phantom, he trailed off, the implications hanging heavy in the air. You think we're in danger, Eleanor stated rather than asked. Before Dr. Winters could respond, they heard a sound at the doorway. Lily stood there, her face pale, clutching a piece of paper in her hand. Lily, Eleanor began gently. How long have you been standing there, sweetheart? Lily stepped forward, placing the paper on the table. A flyer announcing the capture of Phantom and Victor's taming challenge at tomorrow's auction. I need to save him, she said, her voice clear and stronger than they had heard in years. Eleanor and Dr. Winters exchanged startled looks at both the declaration and the sudden return of Lily's voice. Honey, that horse is wild and dangerous, Eleanor said carefully, and Victor's challenge is impossible by design. Lily's eyes, so like her mother's, shone with determination. Mom showed me how. It's in her journals. Dr. Winters leaned forward. What do you mean, Lily? Mom's special way with horses, Lily explained, becoming more animated. She wrote it all down. She showed me with the baker's colt, remember? The one everyone said was too wild to train. Dr. Winters nodded slowly, remembering Claire's remarkable ability to gentle even the most difficult horses. Phantom knows me, Lily continued. He's seen me in the meadow. I've played music for him like Mom used to. Eleanor reached for her granddaughter's hand. Lily, this isn't like helping the baker's colt. Phantom is fully grown and completely wild. It's too dangerous. And Victor's challenge is a setup, Dr. Winters added. He doesn't expect anyone to succeed. Lily's expression didn't waver. Then he won't expect me. I can do this, Grandma. I need to do this. For Mom. Eleanor looked into her granddaughter's determined face, so suddenly alive with purpose after years of withdrawn silence. The transformation was both miraculous and terrifying. Dr. Winters cleared his throat. Perhaps we should all get some rest and discuss this in the morning when... The auction's tomorrow, Lily interrupted. There isn't time. A heavy silence fell over the kitchen as the adults struggled with the impossible choice before them. Allowing Lily to attempt the challenge seemed unthinkably dangerous, yet the fierce light that had returned to her eyes after 5 years of grief-stricken shadows was equally impossible to extinguish. Your mother would be proud of your courage, Eleanor finally said, her voice thick with emotion. But she would never forgive me if I let you put yourself in danger. Lily squeezed her grandmother's hand. Mom always said that sometimes the greatest danger is in not trying at all. Outside, the wind picked up, rattling the windows of the old farmhouse. In the distance, thunder rumbled across the mountains like the drumming of wild hooves. The auction grounds were packed the next morning. Word of Victor's challenge had spread throughout Cedar Grove and neighboring communities, drawing a crowd eager to witness the spectacle. Local ranchers, tourists, reporters, and curious onlookers filled the stands around the central corral where Phantom waited. The black stallion seemed calmer today, though his eyes remained alert and wary as he assessed the crowd. He moved with fluid grace around the perimeter of the enclosure, his power evident in every step. Victor stood near the announcer's podium, impeccably dressed in a tailored suit despite the dusty surroundings. He surveyed the crowd with satisfaction, noting the television cameras and reporters. Whether anyone succeeded in taming the Mustang or not, the publicity would be valuable for the resort. Nate approached, looking uncomfortable. Dad, I've been thinking about this challenge. It seems unnecessarily provocative. Victor's smile didn't reach his eyes. Publicity rarely comes from being cautious, son. Besides, no one will succeed. That horse has defied professional trainers for years. That's my point, Nate persisted. If it's impossible by design, isn't that business? Victor interrupted firmly. It's just business. Remember that. Near the entrance, Dr. Winters scanned the arriving crowd anxiously. He had spent a sleepless night worrying about Lily's declaration and hoping that morning light would bring more reasonable thinking. His concern deepened when he spotted Eleanor's truck pulling into the parking area. Eleanor emerged first, her face set in grim determination. Then the passenger door opened and Lily stepped out. She wore simple jeans and a blue plaid shirt that had once belonged to her mother. Her auburn hair was braided back from her face, and she carried a small backpack. Dr. Winters hurried to meet them. Eleanor, please tell me you're not actually allowing this. Adakra Inan. Eleanor's expression was a complex mixture of fear and resigned pride. Have you ever tried to stop a Parker woman once her mind is made up? Michael. Dr. Winters looked at Lily, who met his gaze with quiet determination. Lily, what you're proposing is extremely dangerous. Phantom isn't just any wild horse. He's survived in the mountains for years by being faster and more clever than anything that threatened him. I know, Lily said simply. That's why I need to help him. Before Dr. Winters could respond, the announcer's voice boomed across the grounds, calling for the crowd's attention. Victor had taken the microphone, formally introducing the challenge. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this special event. Before you stands Phantom, the legendary wild Mustang that has eluded capture for years. Victor gestured dramatically toward the corral, where the black stallion pawed restlessly at the ground. Today I offer a unique opportunity. Anyone brave enough to enter that corral and successfully tame this horse within 5 minutes will win him free of charge. The crowd murmured with interest. However, Victor continued, his voice hardening slightly, failure will cost you $5,000 for the privilege of trying. This is no ordinary horse, and this is no ordinary challenge. As if to emphasize Victor's point, Phantom chose that moment to rear up powerful forelegs, striking the air in a display of wild defiance. The crowd gasped appreciatively at the magnificent sight. Now, Victor smiled, scanning the audience, who will be our first brave contestant? A tall man in worn jeans and a professional rodeo jacket stepped forward. I'll take that bet, Harrington. Dr. Winters recognized him as Jason Cooper, a former rodeo champion known for his aggressive training methods. Ah, a professional, Victor noted with satisfaction. 5 minutes on the clock, 5,000 on the line. Let's see what you got. The crowd pressed forward as Cooper entered the corral with a rope and saddle. His approach was confident and practiced, but Dr. Winters could see the tension in his shoulders. Phantom sensed it too, his ears flattening against his head as he tracked the man's movements. Cooper moved quickly, trying to corner the horse against the corral wall. For a moment it seemed his strategy might work. Then with lightning speed, Phantom reared up hooves, slashing through the air, inches from Cooper's face. The crowd gasped as Cooper stumbled backward, dropping his rope. Phantom charged, forcing the trainer to dive under the lowest corral rail to escape. The timer hadn't even reached 2 minutes. Better luck next time, Cooper, Victor called out, not bothering to hide his amusement. That'll be $5,000. Two more men tried their luck. A ranch hand from a neighboring property lasted 3 minutes before Phantom cornered him against the rails. A self-proclaimed horse whisperer from Denver didn't even make it into the corral. Phantom's violent reaction to his approach sent him scrambling back to safety. With each failed attempt, Victor's satisfaction grew more evident. The challenge was playing out exactly as he'd planned, demonstrating the futility of trying to preserve the wild spirit of Cedar Grove in the face of inevitable progress. Eleanor watched the proceedings with increasing distress. "This is cruel," she whispered to Dr. Winters. "That poor animal is terrified." Lily stood silently beside them, her eyes never leaving Phantom. As the horse circled the corral after the latest failed attempt, his gaze suddenly locked with hers across the dusty arena. For a heartbeat, everything else seemed to fade away. "No more takers," Victor called out, surveying the crowd. "No one else brave enough to try their luck with the mighty Phantom." Before Eleanor could stop, her Lily stepped forward. "I'll try," she said, her clear voice carrying across the suddenly hushed auction grounds. The crowd parted heads, turning to stare at the small girl in worn jeans. A ripple of nervous laughter spread through the onlookers. Victor's eyebrows shot up in surprise, then his face split into a mocking grin. Well, looks like we have a volunteer." He turned, spotting Eleanor's horrified expression. "Little Lily Parker, if I'm not mistaken. Claire's daughter." Eleanor pushed forward, grabbing Lily's shoulder. "Lily, no. This is ridiculous. That horse is dangerous." Victor's grin widened. "Listen to your grandmother, little girl. This isn't some gentle riding pony. This beast has nearly killed men 3 times your size." "I just want to try," Lily said quietly. "I won't get hurt." "Lily Parker, we are leaving now," Eleanor said sharply, fear making her voice harsh. Victor stepped closer, his tall frame looming over them both. Now, Eleanor, let the girl try if she wants. Who knows, maybe she inherited her mother's famous touch." The casual cruelty in his voice made Eleanor stiffen. "You're not risking my granddaughter for your entertainment, Victor." "It's not entertainment, it's business," Victor corrected, his voice hardening. "And speaking of business, I understand you had another meeting with the bank yesterday. Third late payment this year, wasn't it?" Eleanor's face paled. Lily looked between them, suddenly understanding the deeper currents beneath this exchange. "What if we change the terms?" Lily suggested, her young voice surprisingly steady. "If I can't tame Phantom, you don't get any money because we don't have it. But if I can, we get the horse and you forgive 1 month of Grandma's mortgage payment." A murmur ran through the crowd. Victor's eyes narrowed, calculating. "Lily," Eleanor protested. "Interesting proposition," Victor cut in, ignoring Eleanor. "Considering the bank that holds your mortgage is a major sponsor of my auctions." He pretended to consider, though his eyes gleamed with anticipation. "All right, deal. You get 5 minutes just like everyone else. You fail no penalty since you're just a child. You succeed, which you won't. You get the horse and 1 month's relief on your mortgage." He turned to the crowd, playing to them. "What do you say, folks? Should we let young Miss Parker try her luck with the devil horse?" The response was immediate and enthusiastic. The prospect of seeing the arrogant Victor Harrington potentially lose his bet to a child was too delicious to pass up. Victor, please. Eleanor pleaded, her voice low. She's just a little girl. A little girl who just made a bet, he replied coldly. Unless she's backing out. Lily met his gaze. I'm not backing out. She turned to her grandmother, gently removing Eleanor's hand from her shoulder. It'll be okay, Grandma, I promise. Then before anyone could stop her, Lily Parker walked toward the corral gate where Phantom paced in agitated circles, the late morning sun glinting off his midnight coat, his destiny about to collide with hers in ways that would change everything in Cedar Grove. The crowd fell silent as Lily approached the corral gate. Even Victor's confident smirk faltered slightly as he watched the small figure in worn jeans prepare to enter the enclosure with the most notorious wild Mustang in the valley. Dr. Winters pushed through the crowd to stand beside Eleanor, his weathered face etched with concern. She shouldn't be doing this, Eleanor, he whispered. You think I don't know that? Eleanor's voice trembled. But you know Lily when she gets that look in her eye, just like her mother. Inside the corral, Phantom pawed at the ground, nostrils flared, eyes rolling. The ranch hands exchanged nervous glances, cattle prods at the ready. Victor gestured impatiently for them to open the gate. 5 minutes, he reminded Lily, his voice carrying an edge of anticipation. The clock starts when you step inside. Lily nodded, taking a deep breath. As the gate swung open, she removed her cap, letting her auburn hair fall loose around her shoulders. Then, to everyone's surprise, she pulled a worn harmonica from her pocket. What's she doing? Someone in the crowd whispered. Making a fool of herself, Nate Harrington replied with a snicker, though his eyes betrayed uncertainty. Lily stepped into the corral, slowly, deliberately. The gate clanged shut behind her. Victor started the timer with a theatrical flourish, and the crowd collectively held its breath. For several seconds, Lily just stood there, making no move toward Phantom. The Mustang backed away, maintaining the maximum distance between them. His ears flicked nervously, but he didn't charge or rear. Not yet. Then Lily began to play. The simple melody that emerged from the harmonica was soft, almost hesitant. A few notes, a pause, then a few more. The crowd exchanged confused looks. This wasn't how you approached a wild horse. This wasn't how you tamed anything. But Eleanor recognized the tune immediately. It was an old lullaby Claire used to play for Lily when she was small, the same melody she'd used to calm nervous horses. Phantom's ears swiveled forward, his frantic pacing slowing. Lily continued playing her small fingers, moving deftly across the harmonica. After a minute of the gentle music, she lowered the instrument and took a single step forward. Phantom snorted, pawing the ground again, but he didn't retreat. Look at that, Dr. Winters murmured. He's curious. Victor checked his watch ostentatiously. 3 minutes left. She hasn't even touched him. Lily took another careful step, then another. She had pocketed the harmonica and now held out an empty hand palm up. Her lips were moving, though no one could hear what she was saying. She's talking to him, Eleanor said softly, just like Claire used to. 2 minutes remained on the clock. Lily was now halfway across the corral, still moving, with that same deliberate slowness. Phantom stood his ground, watching her intently, his powerful body tense, but no longer trembling with fear. She's going to get herself killed, Nate muttered to his father. Victor didn't respond. His eyes were fixed on the scene unfolding before him, his confident smirk gradually giving way to confusion. When Lily was about 10 feet from Phantom, she stopped and slowly reached into her pocket. The crowd gasped, fearing a sudden movement might trigger the Mustang's flight response. But Lily withdrew only an apple, which she placed on the ground before taking 2 steps backward. Smart, Dr. Winters nodded approvingly. She's giving him the choice. Phantom's nostrils flared, catching the scent. His ears flicked forward in interest, though he made no immediate move toward the offering. 1 minute remained. Victor was no longer checking his watch. The crowd had gone completely silent, collectively holding their breath. Lily began humming the lullaby, now the same melody she'd played on the harmonica. Her voice was soft, but in the silence of the auction grounds it carried with surprising clarity. She knelt in the dirt, making herself smaller, less threatening. 30 seconds. Phantom took one hesitant step forward, then another. His eyes never left Lily, but the wild panic had been replaced by something else. A guarded curiosity. "I'll be damned," someone whispered from the crowd. 20 seconds. Phantom was now just a few feet from the apple. From Lily, the Mustang lowered his head cautiously, nostrils working as he caught her scent. Lily remained perfectly still, humming quietly, her eyes lowered submissively. 10 seconds. With a final tentative step, Phantom reached the apple. He sniffed it carefully, then took it delicately between his teeth. As he chewed, Lily slowly, so slowly raised her hand. 5 seconds. The Mustang tensed but didn't pull away. Lily's small hand hovered in the air between them, an invitation rather than a demand. 3 seconds. Phantom swallowed the apple. His dark eyes studied Lily's outstretched hand. 2 seconds. The Mustang took a step closer. 1 second. Phantom's velvety muzzle touched Lily's palm. "Time," Victor called out, his voice strangely tight. But no one was listening to him anymore. The crowd watched mesmerized as the wild Mustang that had terrorized 3 professional trainers gently nuzzled the hand of a 13-year-old girl in worn jeans. "She did it," Eleanor whispered, tears welling in her eyes. "My God, she actually did it." Dr. Winters squeezed her shoulder. "Claire would be so proud." Lily slowly rose to her feet, her hand still resting on Phantom's muzzle. With her other hand, she reached up and gently stroked his neck. The Mustang's eyes half closed, his breathing steady and calm. The silence broke as the crowd erupted in cheers and applause. Lily turned startled by the sudden noise, and Phantom tensed, but he didn't bolt. Instead, he stayed beside her, as if drawing courage from her presence. Victor Harrington stood frozen, the stopwatch still in his hand, his face drained of color, his confident smirk long gone. Nate approached him, speaking urgently into his ear, but Victor shook him off. "The bet," Eleanor called out, pushing forward. "She won the bet, Victor." Harrington's jaw tightened. "She didn't saddle him. The terms were clear. Saddle and bridle within 5 minutes." A murmur of disapproval rippled through the crowd. Dr. Winters stepped forward, his normally gentle demeanor hardened with anger. "That's not what you said, Harrington. You said tame him. And by God, that's exactly what she did." Voices rose in agreement. Jason Cooper, the rodeo champion who had failed so spectacularly, nodded vigorously. "The doc's right. You said tame him, not saddle him." Victor looked around, feeling the crowd turning against him. His eyes narrowed as they landed on Lily, still standing calmly beside Phantom in the center of the corral. "Fine," he snapped. "She got lucky. The horse gets 1 apple and suddenly he's a pet. That doesn't mean—" "It means she won," Sheriff Tom Bryant's authoritative voice cut through the argument. The tall lawman had been watching from the edge of the crowd. "Pay up, Victor. The girl won fair and square." Trapped by his own public challenge and the witness of the entire town, Victor forced a tight smile. "Of course. A bet's a bet. The horse is hers." He turned to Eleanor. "And I'll speak to the bank about that mortgage payment." Nate grabbed his father's arm. "Dad, you can't be serious. That horse is worth—" "I know exactly what he's worth." Victor cut him off sharply. He looked back at Lily, his expression unreadable. "Congratulations, Miss Parker. It seems you inherited more than just your mother's looks." Inside the corral, Lily was oblivious to the debate. Her world had narrowed to the magnificent creature beside her, his warm breath on her hand, the gentle nudge of his muzzle against her shoulder. She stroked his sleek neck, feeling the powerful muscles beneath her fingers. "Hello, Phantom," she whispered. "I'm Lily." The Mustang nickered softly as if in response. The ranch hands cautiously approached with a lead rope, but Lily waved them away. Instead, she turned to face Phantom, directly looking into his dark eyes. "We're going home now," she told him, her voice gentle but firm. "I need you to follow me. Can you do that?" As if understanding her words, Phantom lowered his head slightly. Lily turned and walked slowly toward the gate. After a moment's hesitation, the Mustang followed, matching his pace to hers. The crowd parted in awe as Lily led Phantom out of the corral without a rope, without a bridle, with nothing but the invisible bond that had formed between them in those 5 miraculous minutes. Eleanor stood waiting, tears streaming unashamedly down her weathered cheeks. Dr. Winters beside her, his own eyes suspiciously bright. "Grandma," Lily said, her face glowing with quiet triumph. "This is Phantom. He's coming home with us." Eleanor nodded, unable to speak. She reached out tentatively toward the Mustang, who regarded her with cautious interest, but didn't shy away. You're your mother's daughter, all right? She finally managed her voice thick with emotion. Victor Harrington watched the scene from a distance, his face a mask of controlled fury. Behind him, Nate seethed visibly. This isn't over, Nate muttered. That horse was supposed to be the centerpiece of tomorrow's auction. You promised buyers would be bidding thousands. Shut up, Victor hissed. Not here. Edith Montgomery Cedar Grove's most dedicated gossip sidled up to them, her thin lips curved in a satisfied smile. Well, Victor, it seems your big event didn't quite go as planned. Victor forced a chuckle. On the contrary, Edith, people will be talking about this for years. You can't buy that kind of publicity. Indeed, Edith agreed, her eyes sharp with malice. The great Victor Harrington outsmarted by a little girl. They'll certainly be talking about that. As she walked away, Victor's facade cracked slightly, a vein pulsing at his temple. He turned to watch Lily Parker leading Phantom down Main Street, followed by a procession of townsfolk all eager to witness this unprecedented miracle. I want everything on the Parkers, he said quietly to Nate. The ranch, the financials, everything. That girl just cost us a lot more than a horse. Nate nodded, already pulling out his phone. What about tomorrow's auction? Victor straightened his hat composure, returning. The show goes on, but now we have a new angle. The miraculous horse girl of Cedar Grove. He smiled thinly. By tomorrow morning, I want every newspaper and local TV station covering this story. His eyes narrowed as he watched Lily and Phantom disappear down the street. And the horse, he added coldly. One way or another, that horse will be back in my possession before the month is out. Count on it. From the hillside overlooking the auction grounds, Samuel Redwood lowered his binoculars, a thoughtful expression on his weathered face. He had witnessed the entire event, including Victor's private conversation with Nate afterward. Redwood pulled out his phone and dialed. It's me, he said when the call connected. You were right about the Parker girl. She has her mother's gift. He paused, listening to the response. Yes, Victor's planning something. Keep an eye on them. Another pause. No, I don't think they know about the evidence yet, but they will soon. They'll have to. He ended the call and took one last look at the retreating figures of Lily and Phantom. The sun was beginning to set, casting long shadows across Cedar Grove Valley, where the forces of past and future, wild and tame preservation and progress, were about to collide with consequences no one could predict. The journey back to the Parker Ranch was slow. Lily walked the entire way, Phantom following her like a shadow. Eleanor and Dr. Winters drove behind them in the doctor's old pickup truck, maintaining a respectful distance. I've never seen anything like it, Dr. Winters marveled, watching through the windshield as Lily occasionally stopped to let Phantom sniff at interesting patches of grass or investigate a roadside puddle. It's like they've known each other forever. Eleanor nodded, her eyes never leaving her granddaughter. Claire would say they have. She always believed animals and people could recognize kindred spirits. The Parker Ranch sat on 20 acres of land that rolled gently toward the mountains. The white farmhouse needed paint, and the barn roof had seen better days, but there was a proud dignity to the place, the home of a family who worked hard and loved the land. As they approached the property, Lily felt Phantom tense beside her. She stopped, giving him time to survey his new surroundings. The Mustang's nostrils flared, taking in the scents of hay, other horses, in the coming evening. It's okay, she assured him quietly. This is home now. You're safe here. In the small paddock beside the barn, two older horses watched the newcomer with interest. Clover, an aging mare who had been Claire's favorite, whinnied a greeting. Phantom responded with a cautious, nickering sound. That's Clover and Max, Lily explained, as if Phantom could understand every word. They're very nice. You'll like them. Doctor. Winters parked the truck and hurried to open the paddock gate. Lily led Phantom inside, then stepped back, letting him explore his new territory. The Mustang moved carefully around the perimeter, stopping occasionally to exchange breaths with the other horses over the fence. He's going to be okay, Dr. Winters said, coming to stand beside Lily. You did something incredible today. Lily shrugged, suddenly self-conscious. I just talked to him like Mom used to. Dr. Winters smiled gently. It was a bit more than that, Lily. You understood something about him that nobody else did. He was scared, Lily said simply. Not mean, just really, really scared. Eleanor joined them, carrying a bucket of fresh water which she placed inside the paddock. He's not the only one who was scared today, she said, giving Lily a pointed look. What you did was dangerous, young lady. I know, Grandma. I'm sorry if I scared you, but I knew I could do it. Eleanor sighed, her stern expression softening. Your mother used to say the same thing. She reached out to smooth Lily's windblown hair. You took 10 years off my life today, but I'm proud of you. Lily beamed, then turned back to watch Phantom, who had finally relaxed enough to lower his head and drink from the water bucket. He'll need a proper vet check tomorrow, Dr. Winters said. Make sure he's healthy, get him vaccinated. I can come by in the morning. We'd appreciate that, Michael, Eleanor replied. And thank you for being there today. As the sky darkened toward evening, Lily insisted on staying with Phantom. Eleanor brought out a sandwich and a thermos of hot chocolate, setting them on the fence post. 1 hour, she told her granddaughter firmly. Then you come inside. The horse will still be here in the morning. Lily nodded, though her attention remained fixed on Phantom, who had settled in a corner of the paddock, watching her warily, but without fear. When Eleanor and Dr. Winters had gone inside, Lily sat cross-legged in the dirt just outside Phantom's comfort zone. She pulled out her harmonica and began to play again, the same gentle lullaby, its notes floating on the evening air. Phantom's ears swiveled toward the sound. After a few minutes, he cautiously approached, eventually settling on the ground, a few feet away from Lily. His large body relaxed, his breathing steady. I won't let anything bad happen to you, Lily promised between melodies. Not ever. As if understanding, Phantom closed his eyes. The great wild Mustang that had defied capture for years was finally at peace in the presence of a child who had seen past his fear to the gentle spirit beneath. Neither of them noticed the pair of headlights that briefly illuminated the entrance to the ranch road before switching off, or the dark figure that watched from the shadows before silently retreating into the night. Dawn broke over the Parker Ranch, painting the weathered buildings with golden light. Lily was already awake and dressed, hurrying through her morning chores with unusual efficiency. Eleanor watched from the kitchen window, a cup of coffee warming her hands as her granddaughter lugged water buckets to the paddock where Phantom waited. She's been up since 5, Eleanor said as Dr. Winters let himself in through the back door, medical bag in hand. Not surprising, he replied, accepting the cup of coffee she offered. That horse is a once-in-a-lifetime find. Eleanor's expression grew serious. James, what Victor did yesterday, it wasn't just about the auction, was it? Dr. Winters sighed, setting down his cup. Victor Harrington has wanted your land for years, Eleanor. You know that. But why our little ranch isn't worth much compared to his holdings? It's not about the value, it's about the water rights. Your property controls access to Eagle Creek, and with the drought conditions worsening, he trailed off, but the implication was clear. Eleanor moved to the window again, watching Lily talking animatedly to Phantom across the paddock fence. The Mustang's ears were pricked forward, attentive. Yesterday was just the beginning, she said quietly. Victor isn't going to let this go. Outside, Lily had produced an apple from her pocket and was holding it out to Phantom. The Mustang approached cautiously, but with far less hesitation than the previous day. He took the fruit gently from her palm, his dark eyes watching her with what almost looked like trust. Good morning to you too, Lily laughed as Phantom nudged her shoulder, searching for more treats. That's all for now. Dr. Winters is going to check you over today. Make sure you're healthy. At the mention of a stranger, Phantom's ears flattened slightly. Lily stroked his neck reassuringly. It's okay. He's nice. He helped me save a fox kit last week. Irda, the sound of an approaching vehicle drew her attention. A battered news van with the logo of the local television station crawled up the driveway, followed by 2 cars. Lily frowned. They weren't expecting visitors. Inside the house, Eleanor had also noticed the procession. What on earth? Dr. Winters peered out the window, his expression darkening. Looks like the press. And is that Dennis Cooper from the bank with them? Margaret's hands tightened around her coffee cup. Victor's doing, no doubt. A reporter was already out of the van, cameraman in tow, heading straight for Lily and Phantom. The banker Dennis Cooper emerged from the first car, straightening his tie nervously. From the second vehicle stepped Samuel Redwood, Cedar Grove's wealthiest rancher and Victor Harrington's longtime business rival. Phantom backed away from the fence, alarmed by the strangers. Lily placed herself between the Mustang and the approaching group, her small frame tense with protective instinct. Easy now, she murmured to the horse. Stay with me. The reporter reached them, first microphone extended enthusiastically. Lily Parker, Kate Simmons, Channel 8 News. We're here about the miracle at yesterday's auction. Can you tell our viewers how you managed to tame the untamable Mustang? Before Lily could respond, Eleanor appeared at her side, Dr. Winters, close behind. My granddaughter isn't giving interviews, Eleanor said firmly, especially not ones orchestrated by Victor Harrington. The reporter's professional smile dimmed slightly. Mrs. Parker, this is a remarkable human interest story. Your granddaughter is a local hero. My granddaughter is 13 years old and has school in an hour. Dennis Cooper stepped forward, clearing his throat. Actually, Eleanor, I'm not here with the news crew. I came to discuss yesterday's agreement about the mortgage payment. Samuel Redwood approached as well, his weathered face impassive beneath his expensive Stetson. Unlike Cooper's nervous energy, Redwood moved with the confident ease of a man accustomed to power. And I, he announced, am here to make an offer on that extraordinary animal. Dr. Winters moved protectively closer to Lily and Phantom. The horse isn't for sale, Samuel. He was won fair and square. Redwood's eyebrows raised slightly. Everything has a price, Doctor. I'm prepared to offer $20,000 cash. A gasp came from the reporter, who was avidly recording the entire exchange. Eleanor's expression remained stony. Mr. Redwood, we appreciate your interest, but as Dr. Winters said, Phantom isn't for sale at any price. Cooper fidgeted with his tie again. Eleanor, be reasonable. $20,000 would cover nearly a year of your mortgage payments. The matter isn't open for discussion, Eleanor replied coldly. Redwood studied Phantom with the calculating eye of a connoisseur. $25,000, my final offer. Lily, who had been silent until now, turned to face the wealthy rancher. Excuse me, Mr. Redwood, but why do you want Phantom so badly? You have dozens of horses already. Redwood seemed taken aback by the direct question from the child. Young lady, that is a prime specimen of wild Mustang stock. His bloodline would be invaluable to my breeding program. So you want to use him for breeding? Lily clarified, her young face serious. Among other things, Redwood acknowledged with a nod. An animal with his speed and spirit could produce championship stock. Lily shook her head firmly. He doesn't want that. He wants to be free. Redwood's patronizing smile made Dr. Winters' hands clench at his sides. Horses don't want anything, child. They're animals, not people. I'm sorry you think that, Lily replied without a trace of sarcasm. But Phantom stays with us. Nafas. The reporter had edged closer during this exchange, clearly delighted by the unexpected drama. So the young horse whisperer turns down $25,000 to keep her miraculous Mustang. This is getting better by the minute. Eleanor placed a protective arm around Lily's shoulders. We've said all we're going to say. Now, if you'll excuse us, my granddaughter needs to get ready for school. As they turned to leave, Cooper called after them. The bank's generosity isn't unlimited, Eleanor. One missed payment, and we'll have to reassess the entire loan. Eleanor paused but didn't turn back. I'm well aware of the terms, Dennis. Good day. As they walked back to the house, the reporter's voice carried after them. And there you have it, folks. The heartwarming story of a young girl and her rescued Mustang, which she refuses to sell even for a small fortune. This is Kate Simmons reporting live from the Parker Ranch in Cedar Grove. Once inside, Eleanor's calm facade crumbled slightly. She sank into a kitchen chair, suddenly looking every one of her 68 years. Victor's behind this, she said quietly. The news crew, Dennis, even Samuel Redwood's sudden interest in a wild Mustang. Dr. Winters nodded grimly. He's turning this into a media circus and putting financial pressure on you at the same time. Lily stood in the doorway, her young face troubled. I'm sorry, Grandma. I didn't mean to cause problems. Eleanor immediately softened, reaching out to take Lily's hand. You haven't caused anything, sweetheart. This is Victor Harrington trying to bully us, just like he's always done. But Mr. Cooper said, Dennis Cooper takes his orders from the bank board, and Victor sits on that board, Dr. Winters explained gently. It's all connected. Lily considered this, her brow furrowed in thought. So, Mr. Harrington is still trying to get our ranch even after I won the bet. Especially after you won the bet, Eleanor replied. You embarrassed him in front of the whole town. Victor isn't a man who forgets something like that. But why does he want our land so badly? Dr. Winters and Eleanor exchanged looks. It's complicated, Lily, the veterinarian said finally. But it has to do with water rights and access to the mountains? Lily nodded slowly, processing this. Then her expression brightened. Maybe Phantom could help us earn money, not by selling him, she added quickly, seeing Eleanor's alarm. But what if we showed people how to work with difficult horses? Mom always said there was a better way than breaking their spirit. Dr. Winters looked thoughtful. A training program. That's not a bad idea, actually. There are plenty of problem horses in the county. Eleanor shook her head doubtfully. It takes time to build a reputation, and we need money now. Besides, who would bring their valuable horses to a 13-year-old trainer? They would if they saw what she can do, came a new voice from the doorway. They turned to find Sheriff Tom Bryant standing there, hat in hand. Sorry to intrude. Door was open. Sheriff, Eleanor acknowledged with a nod. I assume you're here about the media circus in my front yard. Sheriff Bryant stepped inside his tall frame, seeming too large for the modest kitchen. Partially. I've asked them to clear out private property and all, but I actually came to talk to Lily. Lily straightened, suddenly nervous. Am I in trouble? The sheriff's weathered face creased in a smile. Not at all. Quite the opposite. What you did yesterday with that Mustang, it was remarkable. I've never seen anything like it. Thank you, sir. Here's the thing, he continued, addressing all of them now. The annual county fair is in 3 weeks. They have that big rodeo exhibition, and this year they're short on special attractions. I was thinking, what if Lily and Phantom gave a demonstration? Dr. Winters leaned forward, intrigued. What kind of demonstration? Nothing fancy. Just show people what she did yesterday, how to approach a horse with gentleness instead of force. The fair board would pay, of course, and it would bring attention to whatever training program you might want to start. Lily's eyes lit up. Could we really, Grandma, please? Eleanor hesitated, considering. I don't know, Tom. Lily's never performed in front of crowds before, and Phantom, he's only just beginning to trust her. A noisy fairground might be too much. The arena is separate from the midway, Sheriff Bryant assured her, and they'd give you time beforehand to acclimate the horse. Plus the fee is $500. Eleanor's eyebrows rose at the figure. It wasn't a fortune, but it would certainly help with their immediate expenses. Can I at least try, Grandma? Lily pleaded. I know Phantom and I can do it. Maybe this is how we save the ranch. Eleanor looked from her granddaughter's hopeful face to Dr. Winters' encouraging nod, and finally to Sheriff Bryant's steady gaze. We'd have 3 weeks to prepare, she asked finally. The sheriff nodded. 3 weeks exactly. The fair opens on the first weekend of October. Eleanor took a deep breath. All right, we'll try. But at the first sign that Phantom is too stressed, we pull out. Agreed. Lily threw her arms around her grandmother's neck. Agreed, thank you, Grandma. I promise we won't let you down. As the excitement settled, Sheriff Bryant's expression grew more serious. There's something else you should know. Victor Harrington is also involved with the fair this year. He's sponsoring the main rodeo event. The kitchen fell silent as the implications sank in. So this would put Lily and Victor in direct competition. Again, Dr. Winters observed quietly. Sheriff Bryant nodded. More or less, though officially, they're just different attractions at the same event. Eleanor's jaw set in determination. We're not afraid of Victor Harrington. If Lily wants to do this demonstration, we'll do it. That's what I was hoping you'd say, Sheriff Bryant replied with a slight smile. The fair board will be pleased. And between us, he lowered his voice conspiratorially, most of the town would love to see Victor taken down a peg or two again. After the sheriff left, Lily could barely contain her excitement. I need to start working with Phantom right away. We have so much to practice. School first, Eleanor reminded her firmly. Education comes before everything, even miracle Mustangs. Lily's face fell slightly, but she nodded in acceptance. Right after school then, and on weekends. We'll work out a schedule, Eleanor promised. Now go get your backpack. I'll drive you to school today. As Lily hurried to her room, Dr. Winters turned to Eleanor. This could be good for them, both Lily and the horse. Give them something positive to focus on. Or it could be setting them up for public humiliation if things go wrong. Eleanor countered, her voice tight with worry. You know how unpredictable wild horses can be, Michael. Victor will try to interfere no matter what, Dr. Winters pointed out. At least this way you have the whole town watching. Makes it harder for him to pull something underhanded. Eleanor nodded slowly, acknowledging the point. I just wish Claire and Daniel were here. They'd know how to handle this. Dr. Winters squeezed her shoulder gently. They'd be proud of how you're raising her, Eleanor, and they'd be amazed by what she did yesterday. Lily sat at her desk in Ms. Thompson's classroom, trying to concentrate on fractions while her mind kept drifting to Phantom and the upcoming fair demonstration. Her teacher had already called on her twice for daydreaming. Lily, Ms. Thompson said, approaching her desk during independent work time. Is everything all right? You seem distracted today. Lily looked up, blushing slightly. Sorry, Miss Thompson. I was thinking about my new horse. Ah, yes, the teacher smiled. I heard about your adventure at the auction yesterday. It's quite remarkable. From across the classroom, Tommy Jenkins snickered loudly. She didn't tame any Mustang. My dad says the whole thing was a setup because Harrington let her win to make himself look good. It's all for publicity. Several other students turned to look, some nodding in agreement, others looking uncertainly at Lily. Lily's best friend Emma Wilson glared at Tommy. That's not true, she protested. My mom was there. She said nobody could get near that horse except Lily. Ms. Thompson held up a hand for quiet. That's enough, both of you. Tommy, we don't make dismissive comments about other students' accomplishments. Tommy slouched in his seat, muttering, just saying what everyone knows. Lily stared at her desk, her cheeks burning. She hadn't considered that people might think it was all staged, a fake challenge orchestrated by Victor Harrington. The idea was awful, tarnishing the special bond she'd felt with Phantom. After class, Ms. Thompson asked Lily to stay behind for a moment. Don't let Tommy get to you, she said kindly. Some people have a hard time acknowledging others' special talents. Lily nodded, but her enthusiasm had dimmed considerably. Do you think people really believe it was fake? Ms. Thompson considered her answer carefully. Some might. People often doubt what they don't understand. But those who were there, who saw it with their own eyes, they know the truth. I'm supposed to do a demonstration at the county fair, Lily confided. What if everyone thinks it's a trick? Then you'll show them it isn't, Ms. Thompson replied simply. The best way to counter doubts is with consistent results. If you can work with Phantom at the fair, the way you did at the auction, no one will be able to deny your gift. Lily brightened slightly. That's what I want to do. Show people there's a better way to work with horses, the way my mom taught me. Ms. Thompson smiled warmly. Claire would be very proud of you, Lily, and so am I. When the final bell rang that afternoon, Lily rushed out to find Dr. Winters waiting in his truck instead of her grandmother. Grandma had to go into town for supplies, he explained as Lily climbed in. Asked if I could pick you up. I thought we might stop by the clinic first. I've got some training books that might help with Phantom. Lily buckled her seatbelt, excitement returning. That would be great, and maybe you could help me plan what to do for the fair demonstration. I'd be honored, Dr. Winters replied with a smile. Your mother and I used to talk for hours about training methods. She had some revolutionary ideas too, revolutionary for most folks around here. Tommy Jenkins told everyone the whole thing with Phantom was fake. Lily said suddenly, her voice small. That Mr. Harrington let me win for publicity. Dr. Winters' hands tightened on the steering wheel. Tommy Jenkins is repeating his father's nonsense. Mayor Jenkins and Victor Harrington have been friends for years. But what if other people think that too? Let them think what they want, Dr. Winters said firmly. The truth has a way of revealing itself over time. As they pulled up to the veterinary clinic, Lily noticed a familiar truck parked outside Nate Harrington's shiny black pickup. Dr. Winters frowned. Wait here a moment, he told Lily, getting out of the truck. Nate was leaning against the clinic door, arms crossed. He straightened as Dr. Winters approached. Clinics closed on Thursday afternoons, the veterinarian said evenly. If you have an emergency, you should have called first. Nate's smile didn't reach his eyes. No emergency, Doc, just a friendly visit. His gaze shifted to the truck where Lily waited. I see you've got the horse whisperer with you. What do you want, Nate? Dr. Winter's normally gentle voice had hardened. Just passing on a message from my father. Nate's casual tone belied the tension in his posture. He wanted me to remind you that your clinic lease comes up for renewal next month. The building is owned by Harrington Properties, in case you forgot. Dr. Winter's face remained impassive. I'm well aware who my landlord is. Is that all? Nate pushed himself away from the door. Dad also mentioned he's considering raising rents across his property's economy and all that. He nodded toward Lily in the truck. Shame if you had to downsize right when you're taking on all these rescue animals the little girl brings you. Then before Dr. Winters could respond, Nate was already walking back to his truck. Just something to think about, Doc. Have a nice day. Lily watched the exchange from the truck, unable to hear the words, but reading the body language clearly enough. When Dr. Winters returned, his face was grim. What did he want? She asked anxiously. Dr. Winters forced a smile. Nothing important, just some business about the clinic lease. He unlocked the clinic door. Come on, let's find those books. Inside, while Dr. Winters searched his cluttered office, Lily wandered through the familiar space. She had spent countless hours here helping with the animals, learning from the gentle veterinarian who had been her mother's closest friend. On the wall hung a photograph she'd seen 100 times, but had never fully registered. Her mother, much younger, standing between Dr. Winters and Eleanor, beside a beautiful chestnut mare. That was Ember, Dr. Winters said, noticing Lily studying the photograph. Your mother's first rescue. Everyone said that horse was dangerous, untrainable. Sound familiar? Lily nodded, touching the frame gently. What happened to her? Ember became one of the best therapy horses in the county. Worked with disabled children for years. He handed Lily a stack of well-worn books. Your mother wrote her training methods in these journals. She was planning to publish them someday. Lily took the books reverently. I didn't know she wrote everything down. Claire believed there was a better way, a gentler way to connect with horses. She wanted to share it with the world. Dr. Winter's voice softened with memory. She called it partnership training, the idea that humans and horses could work together through mutual respect rather than dominance. Lily clutched the journals to her chest. This is perfect for the demonstration. I can show everyone her methods. Dr. Winters nodded, but his expression remained troubled. Just be careful, Lily. Victor Harrington didn't just happen to capture Phantom. He specifically sought out that horse, the one Mustang your mother always said should remain free. There's history there you don't know about. What kind of history? Dr. Winters seemed to debate how much to tell her. Your parents' accident 5 years ago. It wasn't as simple as a truck going off the mountain road during a storm. Lily went very still. What do you mean? They were coming back from documenting the wild herds. Your mother was gathering evidence that Harrington's development plans would disrupt protected Mustang territory. He sighed heavily. Nothing was ever proven, but the brake lines on their truck had been tampered with. Lily stared at him, her young face pale with shock. Are you saying Mr. Harrington had something to do with their accident? I'm saying there are powerful interests in this valley, and your mother was standing in their way? Dr. Winters placed his hands on Lily's shoulders. I'm telling you this because you need to understand what might be at stake with this fair demonstration. It's not just about showing off what you and Phantom can do. Lily nodded slowly, her mind racing to process this new information. It's about finishing what Mom started, showing people her way works. Et couture. And that's exactly what Victor Harrington doesn't want, Dr. Winters confirmed quietly. Because if your mother's methods become accepted, it challenges everything his business stands for. As they drove back to the Parker Ranch, Lily sat quietly, the journals on her lap, thinking about what Dr. Winters had told her. The stakes had suddenly become much higher than saving their mortgage payment or putting on a good show at the county fair. This was about her mother's legacy, about the right way to treat wild creatures, about standing up to people who saw animals and land as nothing more than resources to be exploited. And somewhere deep inside, a quiet determination took root. Lily Parker might only be 13 years old, but she had inherited more than just her mother's auburn hair and gentle touch with animals. She had inherited Claire Parker's courage and conviction. By the time they reached the ranch, Lily knew exactly what her fair demonstration needed to be, not just a display of horse training, but a testament to everything her mother had believed in a public challenge to Victor Harrington's entire worldview. Phantom was waiting at the paddock fence, his dark eyes following Lily as she approached. She reached out to stroke his velvety muzzle, feeling the connection between them strengthen with each interaction. "We've got work to do," she told him softly, "and not much time to do it." The weeks leading up to the county fair passed in a blur of activity. Every day after school, Lily immersed herself in her mother's journals, studying Claire Parker's detailed observations and training methods. Each evening, she worked with Phantom, gradually building trust through the techniques her mother had pioneered. Eleanor watched from the kitchen window as her granddaughter and the wild Mustang developed an increasingly profound connection. Sometimes the resemblance between Lily and Claire was so strong, it made her heart ache. The same determined set of the shoulders, the same gentle persistence, the same intuitive understanding of an animal's fears and needs. "She's got her mother's gift," Dr. Winters observed one evening as they watched Lily lead Phantom through a series of exercises in the paddock. "Maybe even stronger." Eleanor nodded, her eyes never leaving her granddaughter. "Claire always said Lily could feel what animals were feeling. I thought it was just a mother's pride." Dr. Winters smiled. Claire never exaggerated about animals. If she said Lily had a gift, she meant it literally. In the paddock, Lily was teaching Phantom to respond to the lightest touch on his neck rather than traditional rein pressure. The Mustang's initial wariness had given way to curiosity, then to something like enthusiasm. He seemed to enjoy the mental challenge, his intelligent eyes following Lily's every movement. "Grandma, look," Lily called out, stepping away from Phantom's side and gesturing with her hand. The Mustang turned in a perfect circle, following the motion without any physical contact. "He understands the cues already." Eleanor clapped appreciatively, though concern still shadowed her eyes. She hadn't told Lily about the notice that had arrived from the bank that morning, a formal reminder that without substantial payment by the end of the month, foreclosure proceedings would begin. The $500 from the fair demonstration would help, but it was far from enough to save their home. Samuel Redwood's offer of $25,000 for Phantom became more tempting with each passing day, though Eleanor would never admit it aloud. She knew what the Mustang meant to Lily, not just a horse, but a connection to her mother, a symbol of everything Claire had believed in. "You're making remarkable progress," she called back, forcing enthusiasm into her voice. "Your mother would be so proud." Lily beamed, then turned back to Phantom, whispering something in the horse's ear before offering him an apple slice from her pocket. The Mustang took it delicately, then nuzzled her shoulder in a gesture of surprising affection. Later that evening, as Eleanor cleaned up after dinner, Lily sat at the kitchen table with her mother's journals spread before her, making notes for the demonstration. "Mom used a different approach for each horse," she explained, pointing to a particular entry. "She said you have to listen to what they're telling you, not force them into some predetermined program." Eleanor smiled, drying her hands on a dish towel. "Your mother always said horses had as much to teach us as we had to teach them." "That's what I want to show people at the fair," Lily said earnestly. "Not just that Phantom can be tamed, but that there's a better way to do it, a way that respects who he is." A knock at the door interrupted their conversation. Eleanor frowned. They rarely had visitors after dark. She opened the door to find Sheriff Bryant on the porch, his expression troubled. "Evening, Eleanor," he said, removing his hat. "Sorry to disturb you so late. Mind if I come in?" Eleanor stepped aside, a sense of foreboding settling in her chest. "Of course, Tom. Is something wrong?" The sheriff entered, nodding a greeting to Lily before turning back to Eleanor. "Afraid I've got some concerning news. There's been a change to the fair schedule. The board voted this afternoon to move Lily's demonstration to directly before Victor Harrington's main rodeo event." Eleanor's eyes narrowed. "Let me guess. Victor suggested the change." Sheriff Bryant nodded grimly. "Said it would maximize attendance for both events. But there's more. He's added a Mustang breaking exhibition to his rodeo show featuring professional trainers using traditional methods. He's setting up a direct comparison, making it a contest between Lily's gentle approach and his cowboy's forced breaking." Eleanor realized, sinking into a chair. "That's not fair," Lily protested. "Phantom and I are just doing a demonstration, not competing with anyone." Sheriff Bryant sighed. I know, Lily. I argued against it, but I was outvoted. Mayor Jenkins and his supporters control the board. Can we back out? Eleanor asked. Miller hesitated. You could, but... He glanced at Lily, clearly weighing how much to say in front of her. But what? Lily pressed. Victor's already promoting it, Sheriff Bryant admitted reluctantly. Local paper radio even got a spot on the regional TV news. The Miracle Girl of Cedar Grove versus traditional horsemanship. If we pull out now, we'd look like we're afraid. Lily finished, her young face hardening with determination. Like we know we can't really do what we said. Eleanor reached across the table to squeeze Lily's hand. No one would blame us for withdrawing. This isn't what we agreed to. Lily shook her head firmly. We're not backing out. Phantom and I will be ready. After Sheriff Bryant left, Eleanor sat beside Lily at the kitchen table, studying her granddaughter's resolute expression. Lily, you don't have to do this. Victor Harrington is trying to manipulate you to turn your demonstration into a public spectacle. I know, Lily replied quietly, but this could be our only chance to show people Mom's methods really work. If we can change even a few minds. Eleanor sighed, recognizing the stubborn set of Lily's jaw, so like her father's, so like her own. If we do this, we do it our way. No compromising to please the crowd or match whatever show Victor puts on. Lily nodded solemnly. Our way, Mom's way. The next day after school, Lily was surprised to find Samuel Redwood's expensive truck parked outside the veterinary clinic when Dr. Winters picked her up. What's he doing here? She asked as they pulled in. Dr. Winters' expression was unreadable. Said he wanted to discuss something important. Asked specifically that you be included in the conversation. Inside the clinic, Redwood stood examining the wall of photographs, hands clasped behind his back. He turned as they entered, his weathered face grave. Lily, he acknowledged with a nod. Doctor, thank you for agreeing to meet. We didn't exactly agree, Dr. Winters pointed out. You were waiting when we arrived. Redwood smiled thinly. A matter of semantics. I have information you need to hear. He focused his attention on Lily. Particularly you, young lady. Lily met his gaze steadily. About Phantom, about Victor Harrington. Redwood corrected. And yes, indirectly about your Mustang. I believe you're aware of the changes to the fare schedule. Lily nodded. Sheriff Bryant told us last night. What you may not know is that Victor has imported professional Mustang breakers from Wyoming men who specialize in breaking wild horses in record time by any means necessary. Dr. Winters frowned. This is crossing a line even for Victor. It gets worse, Redwood continued. The exhibition immediately following yours will feature another black Mustang, one remarkably similar to Phantom. They'll demonstrate proper braking techniques on this horse, creating a direct contrast to your methods. Lily gasped. That's cruel. They'll hurt the horse just to make a point. Indeed, Redwood agreed grimly. And the crowd won't know the difference between that horse and yours. To the average spectator, it will appear that while your gentle methods produce limited results, the traditional braking techniques achieve complete submission. Dr. Winters' expression darkened. A rigged comparison, deliberate humiliation. Redwood nodded. Victor's undermining your credibility before you even begin. He can't afford to let Claire Parker's methods gain public acceptance. Lily's hands clenched into fists at her sides. We're still going to do the demonstration. We'll just have to be so good that everyone can see the difference. Redwood studied her thoughtfully. Admirable spirit, but perhaps insufficient against Victor's resources. He turned to Dr. Winters. You have a history with Claire Parker's work. You understand what's at stake here. Dr. Winters nodded slowly. This isn't just about a horse demonstration. It's about competing visions for the future, one where animals are respected as partners, another where they're just resources to be exploited. Precisely, Redwood agreed, which is why I'm here to offer my assistance. Lily looked up sharply. You want to help us? Why? Redwood's smile contained no warmth. Let's just say Victor Harrington and I have different ideas about the future of this valley. His vision involves casinos, resorts, and paved-over rangeland. Mine involves preserving what makes this place special in the first place. And Phantom? Lily asked, suspicion evident in her voice. You still want to buy him? I recognize that Phantom is no longer for sale, Redwood replied smoothly. However, I can offer something else, access to my indoor training arena for your preparation, plus professional equipment and technical support for your demonstration. Make it a true spectacle that even Victor can't diminish. Dr. Winters and Lily exchanged uncertain glances. What's the catch? Dr. Winters asked bluntly. Redwood's expression remained impassive. No catch. Consider it an investment in the future. If Claire Parker's methods gain public acceptance, it benefits everyone who values traditional ranching over Victor's brand of commercialized exploitation. I'd need to discuss this with Eleanor, Dr. Winters said cautiously. Of course, Redwood nodded. I wouldn't expect anything less. The offer stands regardless. He turned to leave, then paused at the door. One more thing. Victor doesn't fight fair. Be prepared for anything. After Redwood departed, Lily looked up at Dr. Winters' confusion evident in her young face. Can we trust him? The veterinarian sighed heavily. Samuel Redwood has his own agenda. Always has. But in this case, his interests might align with ours. He smiled reassuringly. Don't worry too much about adult complications. Focus on Phantom and your training. That's what matters most. But that evening, when they returned to the Parker Ranch, they found chaos waiting. Eleanor stood in the driveway, her face ashen, speaking urgently with Sheriff Bryant and two deputies. The paddock gate stood open, empty. Phantom! Lily cried out, leaping from Dr. Winters' truck before it had fully stopped. Grandma, where's Phantom? Eleanor turned, her expression crumpling at the sight of her granddaughter's panic. Lily, I'm so sorry. Someone took him while I was in town getting feed. Sheriff Bryant is taking the report now. Lily stood frozen, unable to process the words. Took him? You mean someone stole Phantom? Sheriff Bryant approached, notebook in hand. I'm afraid so, Lily. Your grandmother came home about an hour ago and found the paddock empty. Looks like someone cut the lock on the gate. Dr. Winters surveyed the scene, his expression grim. Victor Harrington. That's a serious accusation, Michael. Sheriff Bryant warned. We can't jump to conclusions without evidence. Who else would have motivation to steal that specific horse? Dr. Winters demanded, especially right before the fair demonstration. Sheriff Bryant sighed. I understand your suspicion, but Victor Harrington was in Denver all day for a livestock auction. Plenty of witnesses can verify that. That doesn't mean he couldn't have sent someone, Eleanor pointed out, putting a protective arm around Lily's shoulders. We'll investigate thoroughly, Sheriff Bryant promised, starting with checking every stable and corral in the county. A horse like that can't just disappear. But Lily barely heard the adults' conversation. Her focus had turned inward to the visceral connection she'd developed with Phantom over the past weeks. Closing her eyes, she tried to sense him, to feel what he might be feeling. Fear, confusion, but not pain. Not yet. He's scared, she said suddenly, interrupting the adults. But he's not hurt and he's not far away. Sheriff Bryant looked at her curiously. What makes you say that? Lily, before she could answer the phone, rang inside the house. Eleanor hurried to answer it, returning moments later with a puzzled expression. That was Samuel Redwood, she said slowly. He says one of his ranch hands spotted a black Mustang matching Phantom's description up in Eagle Canyon, running wild with the local herd. Eagle Canyon? Sheriff Bryant frowned. That's miles from here. How would he get all the way up there on his own? Someone could have transported him and released him, Dr. Winters suggested. Lily shook her head. Or he escaped from whoever took him and found his way back to familiar territory. She turned to her grandmother, eyes pleading. We have to go find him, Grandma. Now before it gets dark. Eleanor hesitated, looking to Sheriff Bryant. Tom, the sheriff considered, then nodded decisively. I'll get a search party together. Dr. Winters, you're familiar with Eagle Canyon. Been treating cattle up there for 20 years. Winters confirmed. I know every trail. Good. You can guide one team, I'll take another. He turned to Eleanor. You and Lily should stay here in case he finds his way back. No, Lily said firmly, a new authority in her young voice. Phantom won't come to anyone else. If he's up there, I need to be there too. Sheriff Bryant studied her determined expression, then nodded slowly. All right, but you stay with Dr. Winters at all times. Understood. As twilight approached, a caravan of vehicles wound its way up the rocky road toward Eagle Canyon. Word had spread quickly through Cedar Grove, and nearly a dozen volunteers had joined the search rancher's shop owners, even Ms. Thompson from school. Sheriff Bryant organized them into 3 search teams, each assigned to a different section of the canyon. Dr. Winters, Lily, and Eleanor would take the northern sector, where the wild herd was most often spotted. Remember, this is a wild Mustang we're looking for, Bryant instructed the group. If you spot him, don't approach. Radio in your location and wait for Lily and Dr. Winters. As they prepared to separate, a black SUV pulled up and Samuel Redwood stepped out accompanied by 2 ranch hands. Thought you could use additional experienced riders, he explained, nodding to Sheriff Bryant. My men know this canyon better than most. Bryant accepted the offer with a grateful nod, assigning Redwood's men to the remaining teams. Redwood himself joined Dr. Winters' group, explaining that his Jeep could navigate the rougher northern trails. As they drove deeper into the canyon, the setting sun painted the sandstone cliffs in brilliant oranges and reds. Under different circumstances, Lily might have found the scenery breathtaking. Now she could think only of Phantom, alone and frightened in unfamiliar territory. He'll be looking for the herd, Redwood explained as they bounced along the rough trail. Wild horses seek safety in numbers. If he's up here, that's where we'll find him. And if we do find him, Eleanor asked from the back seat, how do we catch him? He's still a wild Mustang at heart. Redwood glanced in the rearview mirror at Lily. I don't think catching him will be the problem. The question is whether he'll still trust humans after whatever he's been through today. Lily stared out the window at the darkening landscape, her hand clutching her mother's harmonica in her pocket. He'll trust me, she said quietly. He knows my voice. They drove in silence for several more miles until Redwood suddenly slowed the Jeep, pointing toward a ridge silhouetted against the deepening purple sky. There, he said quietly. The herd. Dr. Winters raised his binoculars, scanning the distant hillside. About 15 horses, and yes, there's a black one among them. Lily leaned forward eagerly. Is it Phantom? Can you tell? Dr. Winters adjusted the focus, then handed the binoculars to Lily. See for yourself. Look for the white lightning streak down his chest. Lily's hands trembled slightly as she raised the binoculars. The herd was grazing peacefully along the ridge, mares and foals clustered together, a few stallions patrolling the perimeter. And there, slightly apart from the others, stood a black horse with a distinctive white marking down his chest. It's him, she whispered, a mixture of relief and anxiety flooding through her. It's Phantom. Redwood reached for the radio to alert the other search teams, but Lily stopped him with a hand on his arm. Wait, she said. Let me try to call him first. If everyone comes rushing in, it might spook the whole herd. Redwood hesitated, then nodded, lowering the radio. What's your plan? Lily took a deep breath, reaching again for the harmonica in her pocket. I need to get closer, but not too close. Just near enough that he can hear me. Dr. Winters exchanged concerned glances with Eleanor. Lily, it's getting dark. These trails aren't safe after sunset. We can use the Jeep's headlights, Redwood suggested. Get within a quarter mile, then approach on foot with flashlights. Eleanor still looked uncertain, but Lily's pleading expression finally won her over. All right, she conceded, but we stay together. No wandering off alone. Redwood drove carefully along the ridge trail, keeping the headlights dim to avoid startling the distant herd. When they were as close as they could get by vehicle, he parked in a small clearing. This is as far as we go by Jeep, he announced. The rest is on foot. They climbed out into the cool evening air, the only sounds the whisper of wind through the canyon and the distant nickering of horses. Redwood distributed powerful flashlights, then led the way along a narrow trail that wound up toward the ridge where the herd grazed. Lily walked between Dr. Winters and her grandmother, her heart pounding with anticipation and fear. What if Phantom didn't remember her? What if his brief time with the wild herd had already erased their bond? After 15 minutes of careful hiking, Redwood signaled for them to stop. The herd is just over this rise, he whispered. Any closer and they'll detect us. Lily nodded, understanding. She removed the harmonica from her pocket, its familiar weight comforting in her palm. I need to go a little closer, she said, just to the top of this rise. Eleanor started to protest, but Dr. Winters placed a restraining hand on her arm. Let her try, Eleanor. She knows what she's doing. Alone, Lily crept forward until she reached the crest of the hill. Below, in a shallow valley illuminated by the rising moon, The wild herd continued its evening grazing. Phantom remained slightly apart, his black coat almost invisible in the growing darkness, except when he moved. Lily raised the harmonica to her lips and began to play. The simple melody floated across the valley, carried by the gentle evening breeze. At first there was no reaction from the distant horses. Then one by one, heads began to lift, ears swiveling to locate the source of the strange sound. Phantom's reaction was immediate and unmistakable. His head jerked up, body tensing as if electrified. For a long moment he stood perfectly still, listening. Then, to Lily's astonishment, he began to walk toward the music, tentatively at first, then with increasing purpose. Behind her, Lily could hear the shocked whispers of the adults, but she didn't turn around. Her focus remained entirely on Phantom, who had broken into a trot, then a canter, heading directly for her position. The harmonica fell silent as Lily watched the Mustangs approach, hardly daring to breathe. When Phantom was 50 yards away, he slowed to a walk, then stopped, nostrils flared as he scented the air. "Phantom," Lily called softly. "It's me. It's Lily." For a heartbeat, the Mustang remained motionless, silhouetted against the moonlit valley. Then, with a soft, nickering sound that seemed to express both recognition and relief, he trotted forward again, closing the distance between them. When he reached Lily, Phantom lowered his head to nuzzle her outstretched hand, his breath warm against her skin. Lily wrapped her arms around his neck, burying her face in his mane, tears of joy streaming down her cheeks. "I found you," she whispered. "I knew you'd remember me." Behind her, Eleanor and Dr. Winters watched in awe, while Samuel Redwood wore an expression of grudging respect. "I've been around horses my entire life," Redwood said quietly to Dr. Winters. "Never seen anything like that. Claire always said Lily had a special gift." Wilson nodded, his own eyes suspiciously bright. "Guess she wasn't exaggerating after all." As Lily led Phantom back to the group, the Mustang following, without hesitation or restraint, Eleanor wiped tears from her weathered cheeks. "Claire would be so proud," she murmured. "So very proud." Redwood raised the radio to his lips, informing the other search teams that Phantom had been found and was safely in Lily's custody. As they prepared to make their way back to the vehicles, however, a disturbing sound echoed through the canyon, the mechanical growl of approaching ATVs. "Were there ATVs with the other search teams?" Eleanor asked, suddenly alert. Sheriff Bryant had specifically prohibited ATVs for the search, concerned they would frighten the horses. Redwood shook his head, his expression hardening. "No," he said grimly. "Those aren't searchers." Phantom's ears flattened at the sound of the approaching ATVs, his body tensing under Lily's hand. Redwood quickly surveyed their surroundings, his expression calculating. "We need to move," he said urgently. "Back to the Jeep. Now." "Who would be out here at this hour?" Eleanor asked unconsciously, moving closer to Lily and Phantom. Redwood's face was grim in the moonlight. "Someone who doesn't want that horse found. Someone who went to considerable trouble to get him away from your ranch." Dr. Winters nodded in understanding. "And who won't be happy to see us taking him back." The ATV engines grew louder, accompanied now by the sweep of headlights cutting through the darkness at the far end of the valley. Redwood gestured toward a stand of juniper trees off the main trail. "This way," he directed. "Stay off the open ground." Lily sensed Phantom's mounting anxiety and leaned close to his ear. "It's okay," she whispered. "I won't let them take you again." Tutum. They moved as quickly as possible through the underbrush, guided by the dim glow of their flashlights. Behind them, the ATVs had reached the spot where the wild herd had been grazing. The horses had scattered at the mechanical intrusion, disappearing into the darkness of the canyon. "They'll realize Phantom isn't with the herd," Dr. Winters said quietly. "Then they'll start searching." Redwood nodded. "We need to get back to the Jeep before they find our trail." Lily walked beside Phantom, one hand resting reassuringly on his neck. The Mustang moved with surprising quietness for such a large animal, matching his pace to hers, as if understanding the need for stealth. They had nearly reached the stand of junipers when the first ATV crested the ridge they had just descended. Its powerful headlights swept across the valley floor, briefly illuminating their small group before they could duck into the cover of the trees. "They've spotted us," Eleanor said, her voice tight with fear. Redwood cursed under his breath. "Change of plans. We split up. Winters, you and Eleanor head straight for the Jeep. Lily and I will take the horse on a different route, circle around, and meet you there." Dr. Winters frowned. I don't like the idea of separating. Neither do I, Redwood replied grimly. But that horse can't outrun ATVs on open ground, and we can't all hide effectively. Better to give them multiple targets. The sound of the ATVs changed direction, heading toward their position. There was no time for further debate. Here, Redwood pressed his keys into Dr. Winters' hand. Get to the Jeep. Start it up. Be ready to move the instant we arrive. Dr. Winters hesitated, then nodded. Be careful, both of you. Eleanor knelt quickly in front of Lily, gripping her shoulders. Stay close to Mr. Redwood. Do exactly what he says. Lily nodded, her young face solemn in the darkness. I will, Grandma. Don't worry. As Dr. Winters and Eleanor disappeared into the darkness, heading toward the Jeep, Redwood turned to Lily. There's a ravine about a quarter-mile east of here. It's too narrow for ATVs, but big enough for us and the horse. Think Phantom can handle rough terrain in the dark? Lily looked up at the Mustang, who stood alert beside her, ears pricked forward as if listening to their plans. He lived wild in these canyons. He knows this land better than any of us. Redwood smiled slightly, the first genuine smile Lily had seen from the stern rancher. Then let's go. Stay close. Keep your flashlight pointed down, and if I say run, you run. Understood. Lily nodded, her hand tightening on Phantom's mane. They moved quickly through the junipers, then across a small clearing before plunging into denser brush that offered better concealment. The ATVs were now methodically sweeping the area where they had been spotted, their headlights cutting through the darkness in systematic patterns. They're organized, Redwood observed quietly. Professional. Lily glanced at him, a question forming on her lips, but a sudden shout from behind cut her off. There by the brush line. Redwood grabbed Lily's arm, pulling her into a run. They've spotted us. Move. Phantom kept pace easily, seeming to understand the urgency of their flight. The ATVs revved loudly, engines straining as they changed course to pursue. The ravine is just ahead, Redwood gasped as they ran. See that dark line in the landscape? Lily nodded, saving her breath for running. They were nearly there when the first ATV burst from the trees behind them, its headlight briefly illuminating them before they plunged into the shadow of the ravine. The ravine was deeper than it had appeared from a distance, its walls dropping steeply on either side. Redwood helped Lily navigate the initial descent, while Phantom picked his way down with surprising agility. They can't follow with the ATVs, Redwood explained, pausing to catch his breath. But they'll dismount and pursue on foot. We need to keep moving. The ravine bottom was rocky but passable, winding through the landscape like a natural corridor. Redwood led the way, his flashlight revealing just enough of the path ahead to avoid obstacles. Lily followed with Phantom close behind her, his hooves occasionally sending small stones skittering into the darkness. Mr. Redwood, Lily ventured as they hurried along. How did you know this ravine was here? Redwood glanced back at her, his expression unreadable in the dim light. I've been fighting Victor Harrington for land and water rights in this canyon for 15 years. I know every inch of it. Above them, voices echoed as their pursuers reached the edge of the ravine. Flashlight beams swept down the steep wall, searching. Keep moving, Redwood urged. The ravine opens onto a dry creek bed about half a mile ahead. From there, it's a straight shot to where the Jeep should be. They continued in tense silence, the sounds of pursuit growing fainter behind them. The ravine gradually widened, and its walls grew less steep, finally opening onto the promised creek bed, a broad sandy wash that cut through the canyon. Redwood paused, listening intently. In the distance, they could hear the ATVs again, the engines revving, as they sought another route to intercept. But closer and more welcome was the low rumble of the Jeep's engine. Winters got the Jeep running, Redwood confirmed. It should be just around that bend. They hurried forward, Lily's heart pounding with a mixture of fear and hope. They were so close to safety now. The Jeep appeared just where Redwood had predicted, its headlights dimmed to avoid attention. Dr. Winters at the wheel with Eleanor, anxiously scanning the darkness beside him. When they spotted Lily and Phantom, their expressions melted into relief. Thank God, Eleanor breathed as they approached. No time for reunions, Redwood said tersely. Those ATVs will be looking for access points to this creek bed. We need to move. The problem of transporting Phantom immediately presented itself. The Jeep was not designed for hauling horses, and they had no trailer. "He'll have to follow us," Lily decided. "I can ride him alongside the Jeep." Eleanor's eyes widened in alarm. "Lily, no. You've never ridden him before, let alone bareback in the dark." "We don't have a choice, Grandma," Lily replied with a calmness that belied her years. "Phantom, trust me. He'll follow my lead." Before anyone could object further, Lily turned to the Mustang, who stood watching the humans debate with alert interest. She placed both hands on his sleek neck, looking directly into his dark eyes. "I need to ride you," she told him softly, "just for a little while so we can get away from the bad people. Will you let me?" Phantom's ears flickered, but he didn't shy away. Taking this as encouragement, Lily moved to his side, and with a graceful motion that surprised even herself, swung up onto his broad back. For a heart-stopping moment, Phantom tensed beneath her, unused to the weight of a rider. Then gradually he relaxed, turning his head to look back at Lily, as if awaiting instruction. "Good boy," she whispered, leaning forward to stroke his neck. "Perfect boy." Redwood looked on with grudging admiration. "Claire Parker's daughter indeed," he murmured. Then more loudly, "Winters, you drive. Keep it slow and steady. The girl and I will flank you on either side." Dr. Winters nodded, shifting into the driver's seat, while Eleanor took the passenger side, her worried gaze never leaving her granddaughter. "Ready?" Redwood asked Lily, mounting his own horse, which had been tethered to a nearby tree. Lily nodded, gathering Phantom's mane in her hands in lieu of reins. "Ready." As they moved out, following the creek bed toward the main canyon road, Lily experienced a sensation unlike anything she'd known before. Beneath her, Phantom moved with fluid grace, his powerful muscles working in perfect harmony. Without saddle or bridle, she could feel every shift of his body, as if they were communicating directly through touch and intention. It felt like flying. It felt like freedom. Behind them, the sounds of pursuit grew more distant as they reached the main canyon road and picked up speed. Dr. Winters drove carefully, maintaining a pace that allowed Lily and Phantom to keep up without straining. They were nearly to the canyon entrance when headlights appeared ahead of them, cutting through the darkness. A vehicle was blocking the narrow road, a black pickup truck that Lily recognized with a chill of fear. "Nate Harrington," Dr. Winters confirmed grimly, slowing the Jeep. Redwood moved his horse alongside the Jeep. "Keep driving," he instructed Winters. "Don't stop." "He's blocking the entire road," Winters protested. "Then he'd better move," Redwood replied, his voice hard with determination. "Because we're not stopping." Winters accelerated slightly, the Jeep lurching forward. The pickup truck's high beams flashed in warning, but it didn't budge. "Mr. Redwood," Lily called out, suddenly anxious. "What if he doesn't move?" Redwood gave her a grim smile. "Then he gets to explain to his insurance company why he parked in the middle of a public road at night with no hazard lights." As they drew closer, the pickup's driver's door opened, and Nate Harrington emerged, standing directly in their path. The headlights illuminated his tall frame and thunderous expression. "That's far enough," he shouted, raising a hand. "The horse comes with me, or nobody passes." Dr. Winters slowed the Jeep, but didn't stop completely. Redwood moved his horse forward, positioning himself between Nate and Lily. "Stand aside, Nate," Redwood called out calmly. "You're interfering with the recovery of stolen property." Nate laughed harshly. "Stolen? That horse belongs to Harrington Auctions. The girl never completed the terms of the bet." "There are 24 witnesses who say otherwise," Dr. Winters retorted, leaning out the Jeep window. Nate's hand moved to his belt, where the butt of a pistol was visible in the headlights. "I'm not arguing about this. The horse comes with me, or there's going to be trouble." Redwood's posture changed subtly, his right hand drifting toward his own waistband. "Think very carefully about your next move, son. Armed robbery carries a steep sentence in this state." The standoff stretched for several tense seconds, neither man willing to back down. Then from behind them came the welcome sound of approaching vehicles, Sheriff Bryant's patrol car followed by several trucks carrying members of the search party. Nate hesitated, clearly reassessing his options. His eyes darted from Redwood to the approaching convoy, then settled on Lily, still mounted on Phantom's back. "This isn't over," he said flatly. "That horse will be back where he belongs before the fair." "He is where he belongs," Lily replied, her young voice steady in the darkness. "With someone who understands him." Nate's jaw clenched visibly, but he stepped back, returning to his truck as Sheriff Bryant's patrol car pulled alongside the Jeep. Nate gunned his engine and swerved around them, disappearing down the canyon road in a spray of gravel. Sheriff Bryant stepped out, surveying the scene with evident relief. "Everyone all right?" "We're fine," Eleanor confirmed, though her hands still gripped the doorframe so tightly her knuckles were white. "Thanks to Mr. Redwood?" Bryant nodded to Redwood, who acknowledged the thanks with a slight inclination of his head. Then the sheriff turned his attention to Lily, still sitting atop Phantom. "Quite a night for you, young lady," he observed with gentle humor. "Found your horse and learned to ride him in one go." Lily smiled, stroking Phantom's neck. "He knew what to do. I just had to trust him." The journey back to the Parker Ranch was made in convoy, Sheriff Bryant's patrol car leading the way, followed by Dr. Winter's Jeep and the search party vehicles. Lily continued to ride Phantom, who seemed content to follow along occasionally, nickering softly as if reassuring her of his presence. By the time they reached the ranch, it was well past midnight. The yard lights illuminated the concerned faces of neighbors who had stayed behind to await news. A spontaneous cheer went up when they spotted Lily and Phantom. As Lily slipped tiredly from the Mustang's back, Sheriff Bryant gathered the group around him. "I want to thank everyone for their help tonight," he began. "Thanks to your efforts, Phantom has been safely recovered. However," his expression darkened, "this was clearly a criminal act. Someone deliberately stole this horse and then tried to prevent its recovery." "Victor Harrington," someone in the crowd muttered, triggering a wave of agreeing murmurs. Sheriff Bryant held up a hand for quiet. "I understand the suspicion, but we need evidence before making accusations. For now, I'm posting a deputy here overnight to ensure there are no further incidents." As the crowd began to disperse, Redwood approached Eleanor, speaking quietly. "The offer of my training facility still stands. After tonight, I think it's clear the horse would be safer there until the fair." Eleanor looked to Lily, who was leading Phantom to the barn, murmuring reassurances to the tired Mustang. "It's not my decision to make," she replied finally, "but I'll discuss it with Lily in the morning." Redwood nodded, then turned to Dr. Winters. "Those weren't just random thugs on those ATVs. They were organized, methodical. Victor's hired professional rustlers before, when legal means failed him." Winter's expression was grim. "You think he'll try again?" "I'd bet my ranch on it," Redwood confirmed. "And next time he'll be better prepared." The following morning, Lily awoke early despite the previous night's adventures. She hurried through her chores, eager to check on Phantom. The deputy Sheriff Bryant had assigned was still on duty, drinking coffee on the porch with Eleanor. In the paddock, Phantom greeted Lily with a soft nicker, trotting to the fence as soon as he spotted her. The events of the night seemed to have strengthened their bond rather than traumatized him, a testament to the Mustang's resilience and the trust that had developed between them. Eleanor joined her at the fence, 2 mugs of hot chocolate in hand. "How is he?" "Good," Lily replied, accepting the steaming mug gratefully. "Better than good, actually. It's like he knows we rescued him and he's grateful." Eleanor smiled, though worry still shadowed her eyes. "Mr. Redwood thinks Phantom would be safer at his ranch until the fair. The security is better there. Guards, cameras, the works." Lily considered this, her expression thoughtful beyond her years. "He's right, isn't he? Mr. Harrington won't stop trying to get Phantom back." "Probably not," Eleanor admitted. "Victor Harrington isn't accustomed to losing, especially not to a 13-year-old girl." Lily took a sip of her hot chocolate, watching Phantom as he explored the paddock in the morning light. "Then I guess we should accept Mr. Redwood's offer, but I'm going to stay with Phantom wherever he is." Eleanor nodded, having anticipated this. "I already spoke with Miss Thompson. She's agreed to provide your schoolwork for the next 2 weeks so you won't fall behind." Lily looked up in surprise. "You knew I'd want to go." Eleanor smiled, brushing a strand of auburn hair from her granddaughter's face. "You're Claire Parker's daughter. Of course I knew." Later that morning, arrangements were made. Samuel Redwood sent a proper horse trailer, along with 2 of his most trusted ranch hands. Dr. Winters arrived to oversee Phantom's transfer, ensuring the Mustang remained calm during loading. To everyone's surprise, Phantom walked into the trailer without hesitation, seeming to understand that Lily would be coming with him. Within hours, they were settled at Redwood's impressive ranch. Phantom was placed in a spacious stall with access to a private paddock, and Lily was given a comfortable guest room overlooking the training arena. This place is amazing, Lily marveled as Redwood showed her the facilities. Phantom and I can really train here. Redwood nodded, a hint of pride in his normally stern demeanor. 15,000 square feet of indoor arena space, climate-controlled professional lighting and sound system for the demonstration. Everything you need. Why are you helping us so much? Lily asked directly, her young face serious. Is it just because you don't like Mr. Harrington? Redwood studied her for a moment, then sighed. Your mother and I had our differences, but I respected her work. What she was trying to do, develop humane training methods based on understanding, rather than dominance, it was important. Revolutionary even. Lily's eyes widened in surprise. You knew my mom not well, Redwood admitted, but well enough to recognize that she was onto something significant, something that could change the way we think about horses, about all animals, really. He gestured toward the arena where ranch hands were setting up various obstacles and training stations. Victor Harrington represents the old way, break their spirit force submission. Your mother represented something different, something better. Lily nodded slowly, understanding dawning in her eyes. And you want me to show everyone at the fair that Mom's way works? Exactly, Redwood confirmed. Not just as a tribute to Claire, but because it's the right thing to do for the horses, for the future of ranching in this valley. Sorry. For the next 2 weeks, Lily threw herself into preparations for the fair demonstration. Each day she worked with Phantom for hours, gradually introducing him to the elements they would encounter: music, crowds, unfamiliar objects. Dr. Winters visited regularly, bringing updates from Eleanor and offering advice based on his memories of Claire's techniques. Redwood himself often observed the training sessions, his expertise with horses occasionally supplementing Lily's intuitive approach. Meanwhile, in Cedar Grove, Victor Harrington's preparations for the fair continued with military precision. The local newspaper ran daily articles about the upcoming showdown between traditional horsemanship and the Miracle Girls' gentle methods. Victor himself gave interviews careful to sound respectful, while subtly undermining Lily's approach as charming but impractical. Of course, we all admire young Lily's natural affinity with her pet Mustang, he told the Cedar Grove Gazette. But real ranchers need reliable techniques that work consistently across all horses, not just special cases. Nate Harrington was less diplomatic in his public comments, openly dismissing Lily's success as beginner's luck and promising that his father's professional trainers would demonstrate how real horsemen get results. 3 days before the fair, Redwood called an unexpected meeting in his study. Lily arrived to find Dr. Winters already there, along with Eleanor, who had driven out for the occasion. We have a problem, Redwood announced without preamble. Victor Harrington has changed the format of his exhibition again. Dr. Winters frowned. How so? Redwood unfolded a copy of the official fair program. He's imported a black Mustang that looks remarkably similar to Phantom. During his exhibition, his trainers will break this horse using traditional methods. The audience won't know it's not the same horse Lily worked with. That's dishonest, Eleanor protested. People will think they're seeing the same horse responding differently to different methods. Exactly, Redwood nodded grimly. It's a deliberate attempt to undermine Lily's demonstration, to make it look like her gentle methods produced limited results, while the harsh breaking techniques achieved complete submission. Lily's brow furrowed as she processed this information. So what do we do? The adults exchanged uncertain glances. We could withdraw, Dr. Winters suggested reluctantly. Refuse to participate in what amounts to a rigged comparison. Then Harrington wins by default, Redwood countered. His methods go unchallenged. Lily stood suddenly, her decision made. We're not withdrawing. We're changing our demonstration too. All three adults turned to look at her, surprised by the authority in her young voice. What did you have in mind? Eleanor asked cautiously. Lily's eyes shone with determination. Something Mom would have done. Something that will show everyone the truth once and for all. The morning of the county fair dawned clear and crisp, with the promise of autumn coloring the edges of the Colorado sky. By 80 Sherwooders, the fairgrounds were already bustling with activity vendors, setting up booths, livestock being groomed for competition, carnival rides being tested one final time before the crowds arrived. In a quiet corner of the grounds away from the growing commotion, Lily stood beside Phantom in a small paddock reserved for participants. The Mustang was unusually calm despite the unfamiliar surroundings, his dark eyes alert, but not fearful as he took in the sights and sounds of the fair. "That's it," Lily murmured, stroking his gleaming neck. "Nothing to worry about. We've practiced everything." Redwood approached clipboard in hand, his expression uncharacteristically apprehensive. "They've moved your demonstration up by an hour. Harrington claimed it was to maximize audience flow, whatever that means." Dr. Winters, who was adjusting Phantom's special halter, looked up with a frown. "That doesn't give us much time to prepare." "I think that's the point," Redwood replied grimly. "Less preparation, higher chance of something going wrong." Lily continued stroking Phantom, her young face thoughtful. "It doesn't matter. We're ready now." Eleanor joined them carrying Lily's backpack and the small pouch containing Claire Parker's harmonica. "The stands are already filling up. Word about your demonstration has spread beyond Cedar Grove. There are people here from 3 counties." Redwood nodded. Harrington's publicity campaign worked, just not necessarily in his favor. "Everyone wants to see the girl who tamed the untamable Mustang." "And disappointed they will not be," came a new voice. Sheriff Bryant was approaching with a smile. "Just check the arena. Standing room only already." Lily's stomach fluttered with a mixture of excitement and nerves. This was so much bigger than she had anticipated when she'd first stepped forward at the auction. What had begun as an impulsive attempt to save her grandmother's mortgage payment had somehow evolved into a public defense of her mother's legacy. "There's something else you should know," Sheriff Bryant continued, his expression turning serious. "Victor has brought in a film crew from that regional outdoor sports channel. They're setting up cameras around the arena." Redwood's eyebrows shot up. "Television coverage? That wasn't part of the agreement." "Technically, the Fair Board approved it yesterday," Bryant explained apologetically. "Mayor Jenkins pushed it through as a promotional opportunity for the county." Dr. Winters exchanged worried glances with Eleanor. "That raises the stakes considerably. If something goes wrong, nothing's going to go wrong," Lily said firmly, surprising the adults with her confidence. "Phantom and I know what to do." As they made their final preparations, a sleek black SUV pulled up nearby. Victor Harrington emerged impeccably dressed in a tailored Western suit, his silver hair gleaming beneath his black Stetson. Nate followed along with 2 men Lily didn't recognize, professional trainers, judging by their weathered faces and the specialized equipment they carried. Victor spotted their group and, after a moment's hesitation, strode over, his smile fixed firmly in place. "Well, well," he said pleasantly. "The moment of truth approaches. I trust you're prepared, Miss Parker." Before Lily could respond, Redwood stepped forward, positioning himself subtly between her and Victor. "Schedule changes, television crews. You're pulling out all the stops, Victor." Victor's smile never faltered. "The Fair Board requested the schedule adjustment. As for the television coverage that benefits everyone, win or lose, little Lily here will be famous by sundown." "Now, this isn't a competition," Lily said quietly, moving to stand beside Redwood. "It's just a demonstration." Victor's eyes narrowed slightly, though his smile remained. "Everything's a competition, child. Your mother never understood that either." He tipped his hat with exaggerated courtesy. "Best of luck to you. You're certainly going to need it." As he walked away, one of the trainers lingered, studying Phantom with professional interest. "Fine animal," he commented almost reluctantly. "Shame to waste him on circus tricks." Nate smirked. "Don't worry. After today, Dad will get him back one way or another." Redwood took a threatening step forward, but Sheriff Bryant placed a restraining hand on his arm. "That's enough, Nate. Move along." Once the Harrington contingent had departed, Bryant turned to Lily and Eleanor. "I don't like the sound of that. I'm assigning a deputy to stay with Phantom at all times until after your demonstration." "Thank you, Sheriff," Eleanor said gratefully. Redwood checked his watch. 1 hour until showtime. "Lily, you should get changed and have something to eat. We'll keep Phantom ready." Lily nodded reluctantly, leaving the Mustang's side. As she headed toward the participants' building with her grandmother, she spotted familiar faces in the growing crowd. Ms. Thompson and her class, including Emma, who waved enthusiastically. Edith Montgomery and her gossip circle already whispering behind their hands. And Mayor Jenkins looking uncomfortable as he greeted constituents near the main entrance. "Everyone's here," Lily murmured, suddenly overwhelmed by the reality of what she was about to do. Eleanor squeezed her hand reassuringly. They're here because they believe in you, both of you. Artinanen in the participants' changing area, Lily put on the outfit they had prepared, not a flashy performance costume, as Victor might have expected, but a simple practical ensemble reminiscent of what her mother used to wear, well-worn jeans, a chambray shirt, and her mother's old training vest, which Eleanor had altered to fit her smaller frame. As she braided her auburn hair, Lily's thoughts turned to her parents. What would they think of all this? Would they be proud? Worried both. "Mom," she whispered to the empty room, "I hope I'm doing this right." When Lily returned to the paddock, she found an unexpected visitor conversing with Dr. Winters and Redwood Jack Miller, the elderly former cowboy who ran the Crossroads Cafe. "Mr. Miller," Lily said, surprised. "You came." The old man smiled, the deep lines around his eyes crinkling. "I wouldn't miss it. I've watched wild horses in this valley for 60 years, and I've never seen anyone connect with them the way you do with that one." He nodded toward Phantom, who was watching him with unusual interest. "He's special," Lily said, approaching Phantom, who nickered softly in greeting. "So was your mother," Miller replied. Claire understood something most folks never learn, that there's wisdom in listening to animals rather than forcing them to listen to us. "You knew my mother too?" Lily asked, though the answer seemed less surprising now. Everyone in Cedar Grove had some connection to Claire Parker, it seemed. "I knew all three generations of Parker women," Miller said with a gentle smile. "Your grandmother was the best barrel racer this county ever saw, and your mother could gentle a horse that others had given up on. Now here you are, carrying on the tradition." A fair official appeared, clipboard in hand. "Miss Parker, you're on in 15 minutes. We need to begin moving your horse to the staging area." The time had come. Lily took a deep breath, centering herself just as she'd practiced. Dr. Winters helped her secure the special halter they had designed, more a suggestion than a restraint, allowing Phantom freedom of movement while giving Lily minimal guidance capability if needed. "Remember," Dr. Winters advised quietly, "no matter what happens in there, stay true to your methods. Don't let Harrington or the crowd pressure you into shortcuts." Redwood added his own counsel. "If anything feels wrong, anything at all, signal me. I'll be at the north gate." Eleanor embraced her granddaughter tightly. "Your mother used to say that horses can sense our intentions. If your heart is clear, Phantom will know what to do." As they made their way toward the arena, Lily could hear the announcer's voice echoing over the loudspeakers, introducing the Miracle Girl of Cedar Grove and her remarkable partnership with the untamable Mustang. The grandstands were indeed packed with people standing 3 deep around the rails. In the staging area, Lily took a moment alone with Phantom, pressing her forehead against his sleek neck. "It's just you and me," she whispered, "just like at home. Don't worry about all those people. They're here to learn." Phantom nickered softly, as if in understanding. The arena gates swung open, and a hush fell over the crowd as Lily led Phantom into the performance space. The Mustang's ears flicked nervously at the sudden quiet, but he moved willingly beside her, matching his pace to hers just as they had practiced. At the center of the arena, Lily turned to face the audience. She spotted Victor in the VIP section, flanked by Nate and Mayor Jenkins. Nearby television cameras tracked her every move, their operators taking cues from a director seated at a portable console. The announcer's voice boomed out again. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Lily Parker and Phantom, the wild Mustang many claimed could never be tamed." Applause rippled through the stands. Lily took a deep breath, then unclipped the lead rope from Phantom's halter, allowing him complete freedom in the arena, exactly as they had practiced, but still a bold move that drew audible gasps from the crowd. For a moment, Phantom stood perfectly still, taking in the unfamiliar environment. Then, with deliberate calm, Lily reached into her pocket and withdrew her mother's harmonica. The first notes of Claire's familiar lullaby floated across the arena, silencing the murmurs of the crowd. Phantom's ears swiveled toward the sound, his posture relaxing visibly. What followed wasn't the flashy demonstration many had expected. There were no tricks, no dramatic commands, no displays of dominance. Instead, Lily showed the audience something far more profound, a genuine partnership between human and horse, built on mutual trust and understanding. She moved around the arena with Phantom following, willingly responding to the subtlest cues, a gesture, a glance, a shift in her posture. When she paused the harmonica and began to speak, explaining the principles behind her mother's methods, Phantom remained attentive beside her, occasionally nudging her pocket for treats, which she provided with a laugh that charmed the audience. Traditional horse training is about forcing submission, she explained, her clear voice carrying surprisingly well across the arena. But my mother discovered that horses naturally want to cooperate if they understand what we're asking and why. It's about communication, not control. To demonstrate, Lily guided Phantom through a series of increasingly complex maneuvers, changes of direction, side passing, even backing in a perfect circle, all accomplished without touching him, using only subtle body language and occasional verbal cues. The crowd watched in fascinated silence, many leaning forward in their seats to better observe the seemingly invisible connection between girl and horse. In the VIP section, Victor Harrington's confident smile had faded to a tight-lipped frown. For the finale, Lily had planned something special. She produced a light saddle blanket from where Dr. Winters had positioned it near the fence. This was the moment of truth. Phantom had accepted the blanket during practice, but never in such a stimulating environment. "This is Phantom's choice," Lily explained to the audience. "I'm not going to force him to accept this. I'm going to ask him and he'll decide." She approached the Mustang, slowly, blanket held out for his inspection. Phantom sniffed it cautiously, then took a step back, ears flicking nervously. The crowd held its collective breath. Lily didn't push. Instead, she stood quietly, waiting, the blanket held loosely in her hands. After what seemed an eternity, but was actually less than a minute, Phantom stepped forward again, stretching his neck to sniff the blanket once more. "It's okay," Lily said softly, though her voice carried in the silent arena. "Your choice always. Your choice." Phantom blew out a long breath, then lowered his head slightly, the signal they had established during training. Lily smiled and gently placed the blanket on his back. The Mustang stood perfectly still, accepting the foreign object without fear. The crowd's response was immediate and overwhelming applause, cheers, even a few tears from those who understood the significance of what they had just witnessed. Lily guided Phantom in a final circuit of the arena, acknowledging the audience with a smile that belied her years. As they approached the exit gate, she noticed Redwood waiting as promised, his normally stern face transformed by a rare smile. Beside him stood Eleanor, tears streaming unashamedly down her weathered cheeks, and Dr. Winters nodding in proud acknowledgement. Lily had done it. She had shown Cedar Grove, and now, thanks to the television coverage, the wider world, that her mother's methods worked, that there was a better way. But as she led Phantom toward the gate, a commotion erupted from the opposite side of the arena. The announcer's voice cut through the applause. "And now, ladies and gentlemen, for a demonstration of traditional Mustang breaking techniques, please welcome Victor Harrington and his professional training team." Before Lily could exit, the opposite gate swung open. Two cowboys on horseback entered, flanking a struggling black Mustang that indeed looked remarkably similar to Phantom. The horse fought against its restraints, eyes wild with fear, as the cowboys forced it toward the center of the arena. Victor Harrington himself strode in behind them, microphone in hand. "Thank you for that charming display, Miss Parker," he called, his amplified voice drowning out the announcer. "Now let's show these good people how professional horsemen achieve reliable, consistent results." The crowd's reaction was mixed. Some applauded, but many called out in protest at the obvious attempt to undermine Lily's demonstration. The black Mustang continued to fight its terror, evident even to untrained observers. Lily had reached the exit gate, but stopped, turning to watch with growing horror as Victor's trainers prepared to break the frightened animal. This was exactly what Redwood had warned about, a stage comparison designed to make her gentle methods look ineffective compared to forced submission. But something unexpected happened. Phantom, sensing the other horse's distress, suddenly tensed beside Lily. His ears flattened, his nostrils flared, and before anyone could react, he pulled away from her and trotted purposefully back into the arena. "Phantom!" Lily called, alarmed. This wasn't part of the plan. The crowd gasped as Phantom approached the struggling Mustang and its startled handlers. Victor stepped back, his triumphant expression giving way to confusion. "Get that horse out of here," he ordered his men. "Stick to the program." But Phantom had his own program. He circled the frightened Mustang, nickering softly, his body language communicating something only another horse could understand. Gradually, remarkably, the black Mustang's struggles lessened. Its ears previously pinned back in terror began to swivel toward Phantom. Lily, recovering from her initial shock, walked calmly back into the arena. "Let them go," she called to Victor's trainers. "Please, just for a moment." The trainers looked to Victor for direction, but he stood speechless, clearly unprepared for this development. Taking advantage of their hesitation, Lily approached slowly, harmonica in hand. She began to play Claire's lullaby once more, the gentle notes floating through the now silent arena. What happened next would be replayed on regional and eventually national news broadcasts. Phantom and the other Mustang, responding to Lily's music and presence, gradually calmed. The black horse's terror subsided, replaced by cautious curiosity. When one of the trainers moved to intervene, Sheriff Bryant stepped from the sidelines, shaking his head in clear warning. The crowd watched in astonishment as Lily, Phantom, and the second Mustang formed an impromptu circle in the center of the arena, a 13-year-old girl and two wild horses connected by nothing more than mutual trust and understanding. Victor Harrington's planned demonstration had backfired spectacularly. Instead of discrediting Lily's methods, he had inadvertently provided her with the perfect opportunity to prove their effectiveness beyond any doubt. "Ladies and gentlemen," Lily said finally, her voice carrying clearly without a microphone, "this is what my mother discovered. Horses help horses. They communicate in ways we're just beginning to understand. We don't need to break their spirit to work with them. We just need to listen." The response was deafening applause, cheers, and a standing ovation that seemed to shake the very foundations of the arena. In the VIP section, Mayor Jenkins was on his feet, clapping enthusiastically, despite Victor Harrington's thunderous expression beside him. As the applause continued, Samuel Redwood stepped into the arena, approaching Victor with grim satisfaction. "I believe this concludes today's demonstrations," he said, just loudly enough for those nearby to hear. "Unless you'd like to further illustrate the superiority of Claire Parker's methods." Victor's face flushed dark with fury. "This isn't over, Redwood. Not by a long shot." "On the contrary," Redwood replied, a thin smile on his weathered face, "I believe it's been settled quite definitively." He gestured toward the crowd, still on their feet, still applauding. "The people have made their choice just like the horses did." As Lily led both Mustangs toward the exit, the television cameras following her every move, she felt a profound sense of accomplishment. This wasn't just a victory for her, or even for Phantom. It was a vindication of everything her mother had believed and everything Claire Parker had lived and worked for. The battle for the soul of Cedar Grove was far from over. Victor Harrington still held considerable power, and his humiliation today would only fuel his determination. But something had shifted in the balance. A small crack had appeared in the foundation of his influence, and it had been created by a 13-year-old girl with an old harmonica and a wild Mustang that nobody thought could be tamed. The day after the fair, Dr. Winters arrived at the Parker Ranch to find Lily sitting on the porch steps, reading a book about horse behavior. Phantom grazed contentedly in the nearby paddock, looking as if he had never been wild at all. "How's our celebrity doing this morning?" Dr. Winters asked, with a smile settling beside her on the steps. Lily shrugged, embarrassed by the attention. The local newspaper had run a front-page story about her demonstration, complete with photographs of the moment when Phantom had calmed the other Mustang. The regional television coverage had been even more extensive, with commentators praising the extraordinary connection between the girl and the formerly wild horse. "I didn't do it for the attention," she said quietly. "I know that," Dr. Winters assured her. "You did it for your mother and for Phantom and for all the horses that might be treated better, because people saw what happened yesterday." Eleanor appeared in the doorway, wiping her hands on a dish towel. "Michael, you're just in time for lunch. I made your favorite chicken and dumplings." As they moved inside, the rumble of an approaching vehicle drew their attention. Through the window, they watched a familiar black SUV pull up the driveway. "Victor," Eleanor said, her voice tightening. "What does he want now?" They stepped back onto the porch as Victor Harrington emerged from the vehicle. He looked different somehow, his usual immaculate appearance slightly disheveled, his confident bearing diminished. He approached slowly, stopping at the foot of the porch steps. "Mrs. Parker," he acknowledged with a nod. "Dr. Winters, Lily." "What do you want, Victor?" Eleanor asked, not unkindly, but with clear wariness. Victor's gaze shifted to Phantom in the paddock. "I came to congratulate Lily on her performance yesterday. It was impressive." The unexpected praise hung in the air, none of them quite sure how to respond. And, Victor continued, to inform you that I've instructed the bank to approve a 6-month extension on your mortgage. No payments due until spring. Eleanor's eyes widened in shock. Why would you do that? Victor didn't answer immediately. Instead, he pulled a folder from inside his jacket and held it out to Dr. Winters. I believe these belong to Claire. Research notes, photographs, documentation of the wild herds. I've had them since the accident. Dr. Winters took the folder, opening it to confirm the contents pages filled with Claire's distinctive handwriting photographs of wild horses, including a much younger Phantom. I don't understand, Lily said, finding her voice. Why are you giving these back now? Victor's eyes met hers, and for the first time she saw something there. Besides cold ambition, a flicker of regret, perhaps even shame. Your mother was right, Lily. About the horses, about a lot of things. I was too stubborn to see it. What changed your mind? Dr. Winters asked. Yesterday, Victor replied simply. Watching that horse, that wild, untamable spirit, choose to help another of his kind. It reminded me of something I'd forgotten a long time ago. Phantom had noticed Victor's presence and was approaching the fence, ears pricked forward with curiosity rather than fear. Victor walked over, slowly stopping a respectful distance from the paddock. Phantom stretched his neck over the fence, nostrils flaring, as he took in Victor's scent. I never wanted the accident to happen, Victor said quietly, his back to the others. I just wanted to scare them to stop Claire from filing those reports. The brake lines were only supposed to be damaged enough to make them pull over, not... His voice faltered. Eleanor gasped, a hand flying to her mouth. Dr. Winters moved protectively closer to Lily. Are you confessing to something, Victor? He asked, his voice hard. Victor turned back to face them, his expression haunted. I didn't give the order to tamper with their brakes. That was Nate's idea, trying to impress me, trying to solve a problem he thought I wanted solved. By the time I found out, it was too late. And you covered it up, Eleanor said, her voice barely above a whisper. You let my daughter and her husband die, and you covered it up. I protected my son, Victor corrected, though, without conviction. I've been protecting him ever since, carrying the weight of what he did. What we did. Lily moved to stand beside her grandmother, her young face solemn as she processed this painful truth. Does Nate know you're telling us this? Victor shook his head. He's on his way to a facility in Arizona. Treatment for alcohol dependency, among other things. It's long overdue. Why tell us now? Dr. Winters asked. After all these years, Victor's gaze returned to Phantom. Because some spirits aren't meant to be broken. Claire understood that. You understand it, he added, looking at Lily. I think maybe I'm starting to understand it too. He reached into his pocket and produced a small USB drive. Everything's on here, the mineral survey data. Claire was collecting the evidence of our unauthorized exploration, the real environmental impact reports. I've already sent copies to the relevant authorities. The resort project is finished. Eleanor took the drive, her hands trembling slightly. And the wild horse herds, the protected lands. Safe, Victor assured her. I'm turning the North Valley property over to a conservation trust. No development, no exploitation. Just open space for the herds to roam. They stood in silence for a moment, the weight of the past and the possibilities of the future hanging in the balance. I can't undo what happened, Victor said finally. I can't bring Claire and Daniel back, but I can try to honor what they stood for. He turned to go, then paused, looking back at Lily. Your mother would be proud of you, Lily Parker. Not just for yesterday, but for seeing something in that horse that the rest of us missed. For believing when no one else did. As Victor's SUV disappeared down the driveway, Lily walked to the paddock. Phantom greeted her with a gentle nudge, his dark eyes seeming to reflect her own complex emotions. What do you think, Phantom? She whispered, stroking his sleek neck. Can people change as much as horses can? The Mustang nickered softly as if considering the question. Autumn deepened in Cedar Grove Valley, painting the aspen groves in brilliant gold and the oak-covered hillsides in rich russet. 6 months had passed since the county fair, and much had changed in the small mountain community. On the Parker Ranch, the old barn had been renovated, transformed into a training center where Lily worked with troubled horses using her mother's methods. Word had spread beyond the county borders, drawing clients from across the state, horses deemed dangerous or untrainable owners at their wits' end. The mortgage extension had given Eleanor breathing room, and the income from the training program was steadily putting the ranch back on solid financial ground. But even more valuable was the sense of purpose that had returned to their lives, the feeling that Claire Parker's work was continuing, evolving, making a difference. On a crisp October morning, Lily stood in the training ring with a nervous chestnut mare, a new arrival with a reputation for bucking off riders. The horse circled warily, but without the terror that had marked her arrival 3 days earlier. Eleanor watched from the fence alongside a well-dressed woman from Denver who had brought the mare as a last resort before selling her. "It's remarkable," the woman commented. "Hannah hasn't let anyone near her for months, but she's actually starting to relax with your granddaughter." Eleanor smiled. "Lily doesn't try to dominate them. She asks for their cooperation." "Just like her mother," came a familiar voice. Dr. Winters joined them at the fence, medical bag in hand for his weekly check of the horses in training. Inside the ring, Lily was playing her mother's harmonica, the gentle melody soothing the nervous mare. Phantom watched from his own paddock nearby, his attention fixed on the training session as if studying the techniques. The sound of vehicles approaching drew their attention. Samuel Redwood's truck led a small procession up the driveway, followed by Sheriff Bryant's patrol car and several other vehicles. "Are we expecting visitors?" Dr. Winters asked. Eleanor shook her head, puzzled. "Not that I know of." Lily concluded her session with Hannah leading the calmer mare back to her stall before joining the adults. By then, Redwood was striding toward them, an uncharacteristic smile on his weathered face. "Hope we're not interrupting," he said, nodding toward the training ring. "But I thought you'd want to see this." From the back of Redwood's truck, his ranch hands carefully unloaded a tarp-covered object. Sheriff Bryant directed them toward the ranch house where they set it down on the porch. "What is this, Samuel?" Eleanor asked. Redwood's smile widened. "A little something from the town council. Unanimous vote, if you can believe it." He pulled away the tarp to reveal a hand-carved wooden sign. In elegant lettering it read, "Parker Training Center, home of the Claire Parker Method, established 2025. Eleanor's hand flew to her mouth, her eyes filling with tears. Lily stared in wonder, running her fingers over her mother's name. "There's more," Sheriff Bryant said, handing Eleanor an official-looking document. "The county has designated the North Valley as the Claire Parker Wild Horse Preserve. It's official as of this morning." Jack Miller emerged from one of the other vehicles, leaning on his cane. "And the Historical Society wants to create an exhibit about Claire's work at the museum," he added. "Display her research, tell her story." Lily looked around at the gathering crowd, neighbors, former clients, friends old and new, all smiling, all there to honor her mother's legacy. The weight that had pressed on her heart for 5 years seemed to lift slightly, allowing her to breathe more freely than she had since the night of the accident. "Thank you," she said simply, her voice steady and clear. "All of you." Later, as the impromptu celebration continued on the porch with coffee and Eleanor's apple pie, Lily slipped away to Phantom's paddock. The Mustang greeted her with his usual gentle nudge, but there was something different in his bearing, a restlessness she hadn't noticed before. "You can feel it, can't you?" she asked softly. "The change of seasons, the pull of the wild." Phantom nickered, tossing his head toward the distant mountains, where the wild herds roamed. Since the fair, he had been a perfect partner, working alongside Lily with the troubled horses, seemingly content with his domesticated life. But Lily had always known this day might come. She opened the paddock gate and led Phantom to the top of the hill behind the ranch house. From there, they could see the entire valley spread out below the town of Cedar Grove. In the distance, the patchwork of ranches and farms, and beyond them, the wild country of the North Valley, now protected forever. Lily unclipped the lead rope from Phantom's halter, then removed the halter itself. The Mustang stood perfectly still, his dark eyes watching her intently. "You don't have to stay," she told him, her voice catching slightly. "You never did. That was always the point. Your choice, your freedom." She pulled the harmonica from her pocket and played the lullaby one last time, the notes carrying on the clear autumn air. When she finished, she pressed her forehead against Phantom's neck, breathing in his familiar scent. "Thank you," she whispered, "for everything." She stepped back, making a small shooing motion with her hands. Phantom hesitated, then took a few steps away. He paused, looking back at her uncertainly. "It's okay," Lily assured him. "I'll be fine. Mom would want you to be free." Phantom tossed his head, then wheeled around and cantered a short distance down the hill. Again he stopped, looking back at the girl who had saved him from a life of fear and subjugation. Lily raised her hand in farewell. "Go on," she called. "The herd is waiting." With a final toss of his head, Phantom galloped away, his powerful stride eating up the distance between the ranch and the wild country beyond. Lily watched until he disappeared into the trees, a black shadow melting into the forest. She wasn't sure how long she stood there before she became aware of Eleanor beside her, a comforting arm around her shoulders. "Did I do the right thing?" Lily asked. Eleanor hugged her close. "You did the only thing that honored what your mother believed, that wild things should have the freedom to choose their own path." They were about to turn back toward the house when movement at the forest edge caught their attention. Phantom had reappeared, but he wasn't alone. Behind him, spread out across the meadow, was the entire wild herd mares with their foals, young stallions, and in their midst a smaller black horse with a white mark on its chest. "Shadow," Lily breathed, recognizing the horse from Victor's demonstration. He found his brother. Phantom raised his head, looking directly at Lily across the distance. Then with deliberate grace, he led the herd in a sweeping arc across the meadow, not retreating deeper into the wilderness, but not approaching the ranch either, finding the perfect middle ground. "I don't think he's leaving entirely," Eleanor observed. "He's just expanding his territory." Lily smiled through her tears. "Mom used to say, the truest freedom isn't about breaking all bonds. It's about choosing which ones to keep." As the sun began to set behind the mountains, casting long golden rays across the valley, Lily and Eleanor walked arm in arm back to the house where friends and neighbors awaited. Behind them, Phantom and his herd grazed peacefully in the meadow, wild and free, yet somehow still connected to the girl who had learned their language. In Cedar Grove, where the old ways and the new had clashed for so long, a different kind of harmony was emerging, one built on understanding rather than domination, on partnership rather than ownership. It had begun with a mother's vision, continued through a daughter's courage, and now extended into a future where humans and animals progress and preservation might find a way to coexist. And it had all started because an arrogant man had bet that no one could tame a wild Mustang in 5 minutes, never imagining that a young girl would prove him wrong by showing that the greatest taming happens when we learn to listen rather than command, when we offer freedom rather than impose constraints. As darkness fell over Cedar Grove Valley, the distant sound of wild horses running free echoed through the hills, not a challenge, but an invitation. A reminder that some spirits are not meant to be broken, only understood. And in that understanding lies the truest path to connection, to healing, and ultimately to peace.